Hello and welcome to Level Up and Friends, where those of us from the video game and comic book store Level Up Entertainment invite some friends on a podcast and we talk about different topics this week, every week that we enjoy. This week we're talking about Friday the 13th, and we have a very, very special guest for us on this one. Probably the biggest Friday the 13th fan we know, but I'm your host this week, Scott, and with me is Brian.
Hey, how you doing, Brian? South Jersey, Jason.
Yeah. Now, Brian, you mentioned your South Jersey Jason, so you're like a exclusively Jason cosplayer.
Yeah, in the South Jersey area, I have a
Yeah.
pretty good territory here. Although I just found out there's a Jersey Jason,
Oh
and
no.
I think he's more like Central or North Jersey. And the funny thing is, my wife follows him.
Oh no. I bet that keeps things interesting.
Yeah.
So what Jason cosplays do you have now? Because I know that you've got several different versions of him
Yeah,
in your
so
repertoire.
I have like a store bought part four, and by store bought I mean I went to the thrift store and got clothes that kind of looked like what he wore in part four. I have a part seven, which I'm actually in the process of rehauling that, and I'm going to debut that next month. I have a hybrid six seven. So why I say hybrid is it's the clothing he wore in six, and if they kept up the continuity, how he should have looked in part seven. And I just got a NES part eight, which we were going to use for Halloween Comic Fest. And I've only worn it in public once, and everyone at the pop-up con loved it. One guy even played the NES theme music on his loudspeaker.
Yeah, I will say that one's probably my favorite just because it's so different, and
Yeah.
it's the NES game is how I originally experienced Friday the 13th.
Hmm.
We should talk a little bit about our history with the franchise. I would go on a limb and say it's probably one of your favorite movie series of all time, since you've spent
Oh,
a lot
yes.
of time dedicated to it.
Yeah. My favorite horror franchise is number one there. I couldn't tell you the age I was introduced. I'm going to say maybe five or six. Back, way back in the day when you just had like regular cable. I had a channel, WPIX, out of New York, and every October they would brand it Shocktober, and like Monday through Saturday they would play horror movies at night, and that's how I first became introduced to Friday the 13th, and ever since then I was hooked. So I'm 41 now, so many years.
Yeah, I'm a little younger than you by only like 5 years or so. But I remember in the 80s, it was kind of like this really taboo series. Like everyone that like, I think even they were, I think people, a lot of kids were still pretending to be cool. Like, oh,
Hmm.
my older cousins, we went and saw the new Jason movie. And like, I don't know, it's like built up as like this monumentally like terrifying thing. And then when I finally got around to watching them, I'm like, oh, this isn't that scary. Like I'd seen scarier movies at that point. Not to say that they're not elements that where they are scary. But I think I built them up more in my head where like Jason was like they were much scarier than they were and much gorier than they were. Like I walking back on them now, they're surprisingly not that gory. Like there's some great like
No.
like visual gags in them, but like the movies we get now are way bloodier than any of the things we ever got.
Oh, well, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, the times, it goes with the times. They're very campy movies.
no pun
My
intended.
um, the ones that really made me like, kind of put my hands over my eyes were the original. And reason that if you talk to a Friday 13th fan, when they don't say the first one, they say the original, because when they originally wrote the script, they didn't intend to make sequels. It was like a one and done, but it made so much
Yeah.
money. So one through four to me are a lot more scarier than the ones after that. After part four, that's when it got, a little campy, and it wasn't really scary. They were going more for the kills than the stories. Part six had a great story, but then after six, it was they're not on my top level of, if I had to rank all 12.
I mean that's interesting because I know seven's considered one of the more it's at least one of the more popular ones.
It is because it was the first movie that Kane Hodder took on the role, and everyone loves the look of how Jason was. And they always, he's been called Zombie Jason, but if you think about it, he's not really zombie. He's not eating your brain. So I call him a revenant. You
Yeah,
know,
he's more like an undead ghoul kind of
yeah,
character. Yeah.
yeah. So seven to me is my favorite as far as the look of Jason, but as far as storyline, I mean, it was cool. You introduced a Carrie-like figure in it, so you finally had someone that can go toe to toe with Jason. But overall, the story was very bad.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I consider Friday 13th series to be like the comfort food of the horror genre.
Yeah,
Where
yeah,
for me, they're a little samey. Where it's just like, oh no, there's teenagers. Oh no, Jason, and he's just gonna kill him.
yeah,
Like you want that every once in a while, where like
yeah,
it's comfortable.
yeah.
I've mentioned in previous podcasts, which if you haven't listened to, you should go listen to them all real fast and then come back to this. But I like a lot of like characters and stuff. Really drive them, and like I find the majority of the human characters really forgettable. The
Hmm.
most memorable thing I think any of them do is Crispin Glover does a really weird dance in part 4.
Yeah, and the story behind that was it was originally going to be to AC/DC. So
Yeah, I think they recorded it to Back in Black, but that doesn't explain
yes,
it at
it
all.
no, but Crispin Glover, he's a whole other podcast himself right there. He's a very eccentric person, and the stories that I've heard about, how he was on set, when everyone else was out partying, he was going to toy stores and he bought this really expensive model, remote control model like sailboat and put it out in the lake and it sunk. But
Yeah, yeah, I've heard stories about him too from being, I think we touched upon him a little bit in the Back to the Future podcast, but like he's one of the holdouts that just didn't come back for the sequels.
mhm, mhm.
And it's just like, I don't know. He seems like from the stories I've heard, he seems like he's kind of tough to get to know and work with.
Yeah, yeah. Although, I mean, he's a great actor, though.
Yeah.
He's a very great actor, and I wish he would do more. But he does the roles that he wants to. But if you haven't seen it, I suggest going on YouTube and watching him on David Letterman from like the early '80s.
Oh,
That
you
was
don't want people to watch a Hot Tub Time Machine for his performance?
yeah, he did a Joaquin Phoenix before Joaquin Phoenix even did that, and but his was like I think legit real, and because of that, he was banned from David Letterman for life.
Oh,
So
that's bizarre.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, and because of that, and I would say up until Kane Hodder took over Jason and Jason Lives, um, I would say that's when Jason kind of got a, for lack of a better term, a personality.
Hmm.
Um, so that's when he became a lot more interesting to me because he would start putting like different mannerisms in him, and because
And
he
yes,
started getting a consistent performance
yeah,
because he was
I
just like stuntman beforehand.
yeah, and I will give see he's a very nice guy. I've met him before. He loves his fans, but because he played the role 4 times, people say, "Oh, he's the best Jason because he played 4 times." Yeah, Kane did bring a whole new presence to the character with his body performance, which was really cool. I love Kane's take on it, but then as I got older, I'm like, why is he breathing so heavy? He's dead.
Yeah. Well, this is a series that's kind of infamous for not really worrying about continuity.
No,
I think
no,
the
not
only
at all.
continuity they ever do is like that little chip in his hockey mask.
Yes, but even still,
Yeah.
like when he would get the hockey mask from someone else, why is there still an axe mark in the hockey mask? Probably guess it's just so iconic. They just wanted
Yeah.
to throw it in there.
And speaking of iconic, so everyone knows Jason as like this big lumbering guy with the hockey mask and a machete, but it's really bizarre that he didn't like I would consider part 4 the first like real Jason movie then.
Oh, and that is
Yeah.
my favorite Jason, part
Yeah.
4, because Ted White, if you look into his biography, well, one, he is the oldest man to play Jason. He was
Yeah.
58 years old.
Yeah, he was the
Um,
creature from the Black Lagoon back in what was that,
Yeah,
56?
well, even not in talking about his movie
Yeah.
resume, he was at the Battle of Iwo Jima.
Okay.
And yeah, so right there, okay, he's a veteran. I salute him. And then he got into stunt acting, and he was John Wayne's stunt double, up until like one of John Wayne's last movies. He was friends with Clark Gable. Um, he was also in Starman, if you remember that one with Jeff Bridges,
Mm-hmm.
early '80s. he is coined as the most interesting Jason because he's got such a great resume, and part four was brutal. He put on a great performance, and like if you listen to his interviews, like any of the scenes with him and Corey Feldman, he hated Corey Feldman. So he got
Really?
he
Corey
couldn't
Feldman was
stand.
like 5.
Yeah, but Corey Feldman walked around like he was like, top dog.
All right.
He didn't like
I
that.
have comments about Corey Feldman, but well, I'll bring them because
Yeah,
I
go.
have a lot of comments about 4 in general.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so all right, I didn't know all of that about it. I just knew because I also love Creature from Black Lagoon because I'm a huge
Yeah.
Universal
Yeah.
monster movie fan.
Yep.
Um, and as a kid, I wanted to say that was my favorite one because that's the one nobody said it was their favorite.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, the Frankenstein movies are the best out of
Oh
that
yeah.
bunch. But
Yeah.
no, so all right. Well, speaking of Corey Feldman, so he plays Tommy Jarvis as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
As I know, part 4, Tom Savini came back to do like
Yes.
the effects and stuff again because he did it in the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say that I think Tommy Jarvis is a little bit of a inspiration or an homage to him because he's
Yes.
also in like Creature movie effects. He's got the same first name.
Yep.
I think Corey Feldman as a kid actor is extremely good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He's so believable as a kid in any of the movies he's in, and I think that works in this movie's favor as well.
Yes.
He's great in Gremlins and Goonies and Stand by Me.
Mm-hmm.
He's since not, he's been a character unto himself since then. But
Yeah.
as far as like kid actors go, like I think there's a reason he was so prolific in the 80s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I will say part 4, like I said, I think it's the first true Jason movie because in the first movie it's his mom. Second
Mm-hmm.
movie, Jason comes back and he's got like the sack over his head, so like it's
Yes.
not the Jason you think of. And
Right.
then part 3, he doesn't get the mask until the very end. So
Right.
this is the first time like Jason is quote unquote Jason throughout the entire runtime.
Yeah.
And then from there, like, yes, there's been tweaks to his look since then, especially when he takes his mask off. But like that's the first time like the iconic Jason I think is really solidified and kind of born in this movie.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's got some of the better like gags for killing for death gags that the franchise has. And there's like some mild artistic stuff like there's the one part where the one girl gets killed but like you only see the shadow against the house.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
love the one where he throws the woman through the window and it's like got the framing on it is really cool and it's in slow motion
Yeah.
because it like fills the frame and there's good use of negative space that I think a lot of the other movies don't have. A lot of them are just kind of like, oh no, Jason showed up and put a machete in their head, stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Which one of the Jason's charms, in my opinion, because he does have them, is just kind of like just the blunt simplicity
Mm-hmm.
of these movies. It's not he's not fancy. He's not. I mean, he's not cracking wise. He's a silent character.
Yes. Yeah.
I think and I'll say this about the Friday the 13th series. I think it's the most consistent horror movie series. And I might say this might be the most consistent movie series. Like even James Bond, like is kind of like wild all over the place with tones and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
But to be fair, that tries to reinvent the wheel every like decade or so with new actors and stuff. Which is why I go back to calling it kind of like comfort food.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's familiar rhythms in a Friday the 13th movie. But what would you say like is the strengths of the franchise and like what draws you to it specifically?
What really draws me to it was the original movie. I mean, it was filmed in New Jersey, so we have an iconic movie character with Jersey roots, and so that's what really what I love about the franchise itself. Even though Part One was the only one filmed in Jersey.
I should point out it was not filmed in Voorhees.
No, it was not filmed in Voorhees. Nope, nope. It
In
was
case someone
filmed.
tries to go looking for it on a map
Yeah.
and sees that.
But what draws me to it is just I like the fact that we don't know really too much about Jason. Like all we know was he had a deformity, a disability, and he quote unquote drowned at 12. That's all you really know about him. You have a good backstory with Freddy. You have a good backstory with Michael Myers. You really don't have too much on Jason. And that's what I like about it. It's kind of mysterious in a way.
Yeah. it's vague enough you can project a lot of your feelings onto it.
Yeah.
And of all of the slashers, because like Michael Myers, I was about to call Michael Moore. Oh my god, Michael Myers is basically just the shark from Jaws. Like he's just pure evil,
Yeah.
and he's like not a human. And that's why I think the sequels for him are just terrible, except for Season of the Witch. I love that movie.
Yeah.
But like that's why the first movie works. But like you can't capture that in the bottle again. Freddy's got a really interesting backstory, but like he's also just like a terror. Like he's not sympathetic or redeemable, and that's part of the quote unquote fun with that character is like you're not really supposed to like him. Chucky's kind of the same thing. He's just a bad dude. And that series also gets way off the rail. Like, and then all the other like lesser ones like Leprechaun and even count like Hellraiser as like a slasher series. I'm struggling to come up with like other lesser ones.
Even
right
like
now.
with Hellraiser, though,
Yeah.
if you think about it, Pinhead's not really the central character. There's always he's like
he's just
like
the most memorable, like central.
Yeah. There's always like a plot to the movie itself, and then he just ends up in there. It doesn't really have anything to do with Pinhead, like per se, you know.
But yeah, I think that's a part of what works with Jason, and he doesn't. Granted, he's known for just killing everyone at Camp Crystal Lake, which is always brings up the jokes like, why do people ever go there? Like he does get away from there quite a bit when you start looking at it. I mean, most infamously, he goes to Manhattan and outer space at some point.
Yeah, those are my two lesser, like one of my two lesser ones. I'm like, well, he didn't really go to Manhattan. He went to Vancouver, but he wasn't really in Manhattan.
Those of us on the East Coast, are very much. I'm very familiar with New York, and it's clearly not that.
Yeah,
I kind of love Jason Takes Manhattan, but it's bad. It's a bad movie.
It's really bad. It's my least, like probably my least favorite look of him, because he had such a really awesome look in part 7, and then like he magically got his clothes back.
And he's always like, I don't know, wet in that movie. I don't know. We'll get into that when we start talking about the movies in a little bit more detail. But shit, I forget where I was going with this. But yeah, like I said, that he does get away from the town. Like he does go into like the greater area and stuff. But yeah, it is interesting that he does have a lot of Jersey roots. I remember being a Boy Scout and like occasionally on Friday the 13th, like some of the different camps in the area would do like a sleepover, like a Jason would walk, would stalk the kids and stuff. Obviously no one was ever in any real danger. But it was really fun. And I was like 12-ish. So I wasn't like, I knew what the deal was. I knew it was just a guy in a costume and he wasn't going to actually hurt anyone, but it was still fun to like get into it. But
now you went to Camp Nabisco, right?
Yes,
that's cool.
That's where we did that at.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so we did a special trip there for some of the older kids. I think you had to be like 12 or up. Because I mean, if I did that when I was like 7, I would have like peed my pants. It would have been the scariest thing ever. But no, there's a lot of really that was a lot of fun to do. Like I don't have any specific stories of that other than like, you run around with your friends and like you're like, just Jason, and then you run away and then you laugh or whatever. It's like the fun of Halloween. Yeah. Like the holiday, not the movie. Because that movie's not fun at all. It's very tense and scary. But yeah, so I don't know. Like the Friday the 13th series is interesting in that regard. And I know they're also like fairly low budget, which is why they have really high returns, which is why they kept making them.
Oh yeah. Once like part 5 was kind of like where the return started to go down. So that's when they started like decreasing the budget.
Because I know that's when it sort of started becoming like, for lack of a better term, like a blockbuster for the horror, like for horror movies, far as much as a blockbuster as they get. Because genre movies still are usually pretty looked down on and not invested in as heavily. Right. Yeah. But with that, let's get into the movies a little bit more specifically. I know we just talked a little bit about Jason Takes Manhattan, but what ones are your favorites?
So the first 4, I categorize them like humanoid Jason and then like undead Jason. So my favorite are the first 4, but in the order it's 1, 2, 4, and 3.
Okay, what makes 4 jump ahead of 3?
Just the how Ted Voight's performance overall. Jason just was very brutal, angry. I mean, he's angry in every movie, but this was the movie that, it's a fan favorite, for like the first four. The only reason I put four before three is they went, as a lot of movies did in the early 80s, the 3D route, and they
Yeah.
spent a lot of time. And 3D wasn't even that great. It was like, hey, we're playing stickball, and here's the bat coming out at you.
Yeah.
Um,
At
I
least they
mean,
didn't save his 3D movie for like his death movie like they did with Freddy. It's
yeah,
just terrible.
yeah. So, and the 3D effects are just really bad. Like when he was squeezing Rick's head and the eyeball pops out, but you can see like the little string or whatever it's hooked
Yeah. Oh, they're
onto.
especially if you watch them now without the 3D effect, like they're really bad. Like, and not just
Oh
that
yeah.
movie, but like all of the movies that use the cellophane, like red and blue
Hmm.
glasses.
Yeah, even if you watch the DVD with like the 3D glasses, you're still not getting the effect as if you went and saw the original print at a theater, which there
Never
are.
worked for me at home. You know, at the
Yeah,
movie theaters, just because it's so big.
yeah.
Like I think because you get stuff in your vision that's not that at home,
Hmm.
kind of breaks it for you. I don't know. It's not I or maybe I just my eyes just don't work like that.
Yeah, I can tolerate like the newer 3D stuff, but like the old school stuff, my eyes can't do that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So the original will always be my favorite because of the Jersey roots, and I go up to Blairstown like every Friday 13th, but even if there's not a Friday 13th, I will make a trip maybe once or twice extra, just because it's such a beautiful area. You're rural New Jersey. You're right by the Delaware Water Gap, and you don't feel like you're in Jersey. It's just very beautiful, and the people there are so nice.
Yeah, and they really embrace that they're known for like this kind of schlocky low budget horror movie from like 40 years
You
ago.
would think all the townspeople do, but there are like a select few that could care less.
I know they have like they do like Friday 13th like events and
Yeah, and it
that's what I
brings
mean like with that, yeah.
the tourism. I mean, they're making because the town, it was filmed in two towns really, Blairstown, Hope, and then Hardwick. Hardwick's where the camp's at. But all the beginning scenes before you get to Crystal Lake was filmed in Blairstown and Hope. And Blairstown, like when Annie's walking through the arches, that's really just like 2 blocks. And when they have their Friday the 13th events, all the stores do like specials, like the Post Time Pub will do like a Crystal Lake cocktail and a couple other drinks, and $13 haircuts. But I mean, the fans come in and it just brings them that extra income. And
Yeah.
sadly, we missed out on the 40th anniversary back in May.
Yeah.
That hit, due to COVID, and that could have brought in
And well,
so many
like May
people.
was like really the teeth of it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so I mean,
May 9th was the 40th anniversary of the original film's release.
well, that came out in May.
May 9th, 1980.
That's so weird. As
My
I always associate horror movies with like this time of year.
Yeah, yeah, yep,
But yeah,
yep.
they still horror movies come out all year round now. I think Friday 13th came out in like June. Or not Friday 13th,
Yeah.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
What they try to do now is, if it's a Friday the 13th, they'll try to get it on to release on a Friday the 13th.
Well, that's a bit of a special exception. If like, oh, it happens to be in February, but it's Friday 13th. Like
Yeah,
it's the
yeah,
title of the movie, which
yeah.
I know the first movie takes place on Friday the 13th.
Hmm.
It's strange to think of that series like as named for that.
Yeah,
'Cause
well,
it's got really no bearing on like Jason himself. He's not like he's powered by Friday the 13th.
yeah,
It's not like
exactly.
he's powered by bad luck, you
Well,
know.
I mean, for the true like Uber Friday 13th nerd, he died on a Friday the 13th. So
Yeah, no, that's why she comes back and
yeah,
gets
yeah,
gets vengeance on some kids that had nothing to do with his death.
yeah, yeah, pretty
Um,
much. Yeah.
but yeah, I don't know. That's just something I was thinking about in preparation for this. I was like, it's kind of strange that it's called like it's continued to be called that. I mean, you figure they'd probably like do like a Rambo thing where like it just kind of becomes known as like Jason. But I guess he's in
Well,
like all the subtitles.
yeah, well, that's why after Manhattan, it was, Jason Goes to Hell, Jason X, and Freddy versus Jason, because New Line didn't own the rights to Friday the 13th. So that's why they had a different title.
Yeah, but it's like again, like Rambo, like we always just called it Jason, whatever. Like
Yeah.
we didn't call it Friday the 13th as
Yeah.
kids.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so that's just an interesting thing. So those are the first four, and that's how you take
Hmm.
that. So your next era, then it's is it the five through
See, five's in its own category, like
okay.
Halloween 3, because it wasn't Jason.
Well,
You
because that's
know,
the one where like its spirit is like traveling between people, right?
well, that was what they were planning on doing after part 4. Like it was going to, the spirit of Jason was going to like take over Tommy. So like at the end of part 4, he kind of like stares at the camera and then it freezes. That was what they were going to do, but they decided to go a different way. So they continued the Tommy Jarvis character, but had a copycat Jason, and that's what made a lot of fans angry when they did
Mhm.
that. So it wasn't until many years later that the film, like Halloween 3, has its own cult following. So I keep part 5 by itself.
Mhm.
So when you get to the other movies, now I'll finish out Paramount. They're really, 6 is number would start it off. Okay. Um, and then I think it would just go in that order: 6, 7, 8, and 9.
Okay.
Actually, no, I'm sorry. 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 6, 7, 8 is Paramount. So we have Jason Lives, The New Blood, and then Takes Manhattan, and then New Line took over. And honestly, the New Line films, to me, I'll just leave them in that order. Uh, what was that? Jason Goes to Hell, Jason X. Jason X would probably, I would go Jason Goes to Hell, Freddy versus Jason, and then Jason X. Because I don't like the whole space thing. Once you put a character in space, you really jump the shark. Um,
Can I
but
be honest with you?
again, Jason.
On paper,
Hmm,
because I also hate Jason X. On paper, the idea of Jason in space to me is awesome. It's just the execution in that movie was so bad.
mm-hmm.
Like it wasn't the right tone. If it was like more like a 7, or like they
Yeah.
needed characters to take it seriously enough, but still have fun with the concept because it is a really silly concept.
And the
And
CG was just so
oh
bad.
no, I mean I'm not gonna blame it for that because it was the time and it was lower budget, but like it's just that the characters in it are so stupid.
Well, the only reason we got Jason X was because if New Line didn't make a film, they would lose the rights and they would go back to Paramount. So that was a placeholder until we got Freddy versus Jason, which was a big letdown. And I'm actually reading a book right now called Slash of the Titans, and it talks about the many, 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 many drafts
Oh, because that was
that
in
were
development
written
hell for
since like 88.
yeah, I was gonna
That's
say
like
since
when
at
they
least the
first.
mid. I was new since at least the mid '80s because they teased that them fighting at Jason Goes to Hell. Freddy's glove like
Yes.
drags his mask down.
Yeah.
That's because that's a New Line franchise, and that's when they got Friday 13th. So it's like, oh,
Yes.
now we can actually do this.
Yeah.
Um,
Actually, and one of the guys who wrote a draft, I believe, if I remember correctly, was Peter Jackson.
yeah,
Yeah. So that would have been, it was either Peter Jackson or Guillermo del Toro, one of the two. That would have been pretty interesting. Like the
they're
first.
they're both great, interesting filmmakers, and they have a
Yeah.
serious love of the horror genre.
Yeah. The earlier drafts were pretty good. And then what they would do was they would take maybe an element of one draft and then bring it over and then create a new story around it. So as the drafts go on, the screenplay got worse and worse.
All right, so this might be a controversial opinion then, but I love Freddy versus
uh,
Jason.
that's
Um,
it. I'm canceling my pool
yeah,
box.
uh, I I'm known for liking kind of dumb, silly schlock.
Hmm.
And that's what that movie is. I I I love a lot of elements in it. I love that they gave Jason like these blue hues and Freddy these red ones. So they kind of played
Hmm.
like their water versus fire deaths against each other.
See, and that's
I
what
I always
kills me.
I always thought that although because that was such an infamous project for so long, but
Hmm.
even before like way before it came out, I remember when I was younger and hearing about it, I was like, how's that even going to work? Does Jason sleep? Freddy doesn't go into the real world. And
Right. Yeah.
in either place is like, well, either if he's in the dream world, there's no way he can beat Freddy.
Right.
And if he goes to the real world, Freddy's just a dude with a glove, and Jason's
Hmm.
this undead, like unstoppable killing monster. So
Yeah.
I'm glad they kind of got to do both. And it was fun to see Robert Englund and Kane Hodder together. Like,
Kane Hodder wasn't
I
in it.
wasn't Kane Hodder. I'm sorry.
No, Ken,
But
which that was their first mistake right there, because you have two iconic characters in the horror franchise, and people, when you think of Freddy, you think of Robert Englund. When you think of Jason, you think of Kane Hodder, and you never get the real story of, well, who didn't want Kane in it? Was it New Line, or was it the director? Which was the second biggest mistake, was getting the director to direct this. So fans were disappointed to not have Kane Hodder, because he was about the same height as Robert Englund. They wanted someone taller. Now you
that
get
makes
Ken
that makes some
Krisinger.
sense to give them a
It
little
does
bit more
make sense.
gives them a little bit more
Yeah,
visual contrast.
yeah. I mean, Ken Krisinger is tall as it is, but they gave him Frankenstein boots. Okay,
Yeah.
and
Anyway.
then
Yeah.
and I don't blame Ken for his performance. He was taking direction from the director, and the director wanted him to be like Frankenstein. So that's why he has that slow walk. He doesn't get really in brutal until the fight with Freddy.
Yeah.
So the first mistake was not having Kane Hodder. The second mistake was hiring Ronnie Yu, who never saw a Freddy movie or a Jason movie.
Oh yeah. No. Like, even like I said, I'm more of an Elm Street kid.
Mm-hmm.
But like those. I mean, I like Friday the 13th. Like, that series' continuity just doesn't make
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
Like, which, to be fair, they never intended, I think, them to do. I think they, like, even Friday 13th, like, I think a lot of the time, like half the time, like, they made it like, well, this is going to be the last one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, whatever. I don't get wrapped up in like they're not in character or whatever. I don't know, there's just a lot of like dumb schlock in it that I love. I like that
Yeah,
they I just, to me, it's a fun movie, and that's all I
it's
kind of wanted from them.
fun. Like if it's
I
like on the Sci-Fi Channel on a
Yeah.
Sunday,
It
I'll watch it. But
it's
yeah,
one of those team ups that I never thought was going to work. So the
right.
fact that I enjoy it at all is good to me.
Yeah, and then the third thing that ruined it for fans was you made Jason afraid of water.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's I thought that was pretty
granted, he did
silly.
drown, but did you ever see what was it, part 4
Yeah,
and
and
part 6? He was in part
oh yeah, and
7.
Jason Takes Manhattan. He's all about water.
he
Yeah,
swam he swam to the island after the
he's
cruise ship.
swimming around in the sewers and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think they needed to give him some sort of kryptonite,
yeah.
because that's why I never was interested in them fighting, because it's like they can't really do
Well,
anything
see,
to
in
each
the
other.
original drafts,
See,
their
I
fight.
never read any of that stuff.
See, I never read the drafts. I'm just going off of what is written in the book. They
Yeah, I
actually
never looked into any of that stuff
they
before.
fight
So.
in hell, which would have made a lot more sense. But then at the same token, they set it up like in a boxing ring, and they had a Michael Buffer. They wanted to be the ring announcer. That was hokey right there. But I would have
Yeah,
loved to see like a fight
I
in
mean,
hell, though.
again, that's the kind of dumb stuff I would like to see.
Right, right.
But yeah, I think something in hell would be more interesting, and you can do a hell that's not like just fire and like crags, because like if you
Hmm.
watch like Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, stuff like that, there you can have really interesting interpretations of hell.
Hmm.
Or like
Hmm.
even Wes Craven's New Nightmare had really interesting versions of it, where like you can make it more interesting. You can make it have like a Camp Crystal Lake setting, or like the
Yeah,
boiler room and stuff. Like
exactly.
it's
Yep.
you can make up your own
Yeah.
rules. It's not real.
Right.
So like
And then, yeah.
make it more of like a, oh, you can even play into that where it's more like a dream setting, and that
Yes.
kind of puts Freddy more on this. Yeah. No,
But
there's so many ways that movie could have been better than what we got. I just enjoyed what we got. I think I was the right age when it came out, because it was what, the early 2000s.
2003. Yep.
Yeah, so
No,
I
2003. I think 2003. Yeah.
2003, 2004. I was in high
Yeah.
school, so I went there with my friends, and it was like a fun movie to kind of like watch, and I don't know, I
Yeah.
enjoyed it.
And then in 2009 we got like the reboot slash remake, which I would have to say, when I saw that in the theaters and Jason's running and it has the music with it, my heart was pumping.
I would
You
say
know,
it's not that bad. It's I think it's just
the
as I think it's about as good as like the average sequel.
Yeah, and the only problem like it suffered from was the stereotypical casting.
Yeah, that was pretty.
Yeah.
I think they're, because Friday 13th kind of like it's kind of known for the slasher. It's kind of become the poster boy for like the slasher tropes. Um, so I think they were trying to lean into that.
Hmm, hmm.
I don't think that was the right decision. Um,
Yeah, like
I appreciate that they went and tried to do like the bag over his head thing. I think they should have just went straight to the hockey mask. It doesn't matter.
yeah, but they kind of just want to kind of like recap it. So like basically it had elements of one, two, three, and a little bit of four in there.
Yeah, a little bit of four.
I thought he was terrifying with like the way they did the sack, and like that first 15 minutes, it was like almost like watching a James Bond movie. There's a little story and then it goes right into like the
Yeah,
opening title. Like that first 15 minutes was great. Like that, when everyone starts getting killed, like that's when my blood was like, oh, this is gonna be good.
yeah.
And then they did the fake out at the end where who you think the final girl is, and she's not the final girl.
Yeah,
So
and I think the only thing that movie really had going for it, it was a Platinum Dunes remake,
mhm.
hot on the heels of the pretty bad Nightmare on Elm Street remake.
Well, actually, no, that came out
Oh, that come out
before.
after
It was Texas
but
Chainsaw
Texas
Massacre.
Chainsaw just came
Yeah,
out right before that. Yeah, but it's like in
yeah.
the teeth of like nobody really wants these movies. Like they could have just called it like Friday 13th, like Jason Strikes Back or something, and just made it a sequel and did
Yeah,
not call it a
and
reboot.
Derek Mears did a great job
Yeah,
too. Like he really like he took he he was honored to be on the role, and he studied the other actors that came before him, and then just took what he learned and just kind of made it his own. And I mean, he was just menacing. Like that's the Jason I fell in love with, like with the original like humanoid Jasons. And
yeah.
sadly, that's the last film we've had, and so going on 11 years now. I would have loved to see Derek play Jason one more time.
Now that you bring that up, it is surprising we haven't, because with everyone's like love of like mining nostalgia,
Hmm.
that seems kind of like low hanging fruit. No, not to be insulting, but like a Friday the 13th movie, like again, it can be done on a lower budget.
Hmm.
Um, there hasn't been one in like,
Well, that's because there's a
yeah,
lawsuit right now,
yeah.
between Victor Miller, the writer, and Sean Cunningham, the creator. Because when Victor Miller wrote the script, he was just given one lump sum. Like, all right, here's $7,500. Because at the time they didn't know what it was going to
Oh yeah,
be.
and they were very, they've been, I know they've been candid about like they were just kind of ripping off Halloween.
Oh yeah, Victor Miller will be the first one to tell you he
Yeah,
ripped off
yeah.
Halloween. Yeah.
So like there, so it was
Um,
already kind of like just a quick payday, for lack of
it was a
lack
quick
of better
payday
term.
for him. I mean, his writing credits were really like he wrote like soap operas and stuff, and I
Yeah.
think he did work with Sean Cunningham on something before maybe. But the reason I mean the copyright for this type of for what he did expires. I think it's like 30 or 35 years. So he's not looking for money for himself. He wants to give his family something when he passes.
Yeah, a little bit of
And
a legacy thing.
yes, and Sean Cunningham, I mean, yes, he created a really good horror franchise. Would I want to meet him, get his autograph? I would, but at the end of the day, he doesn't need the money. You know, he should pay Victor what Victor wants. So, about 2 years ago, a judge ruled that yeah, Victor can should be owed something, but it got very hairy. So it's very hard to really go into details. But basically, Victor could write a movie that had Friday the 13th and the name like Jason, but he couldn't use the hockey mask. Sean
Yeah,
could do a movie, but couldn't use Jason and couldn't use Friday the 13th. That's where it gets so hairy, and
yeah, and I'm
so
sure there's so many details that like we just can't know about,
yes,
you know,
yeah. So
for
I'm
legal reasons.
thinking, I'm thinking that the lawsuit might be coming to an end because NECA announced about 2 months ago that they're releasing a Part 7 figure. Now, the last figure to be released that was in production when the lawsuit said stop, you can't make anything, was the Lady of the Lake figure, and that came out like last year. So the fact that, well, one, we got a board game that came out a couple months ago,
Hmm.
and the fact that we are getting a Part 7 figure, I think we're probably going to have a closure to this lawsuit eventually, and then we can get a theatrical movie. But in the time being, now there's been fan films around for
Oh
20,
yeah,
30
there's
years
yeah,
of
yeah.
different movies. But in 2017, Vince DeSanti released Never Hike Alone. And this movie basically was a blueprint of how a good fan film can be made. So he set the bar really high. Now there's been a few fan films like have come out since Never Hike Alone, but they weren't as good. But now it's like a wah. Every week there's
There's a
another
new one.
fan film, and of course, to get these fan films made, they do like Indiegogo campaigns.
Hmm.
But the average Friday fan, they don't make a lot of money, and they can contribute 20, $30, but they're basically like Disney. They're bleeding the franchise right now.
Yeah,
I'm involved in two films, and we're having a hard time just getting some donations. Because there's so much out there, and
yeah,
which we'll talk about that in a little bit.
yeah. Well, I think that's to a testament to there being so many fan films. A, it can be done on a very low budget
Hmm.
with very practical effects. Like I know the machete kills are the easiest thing in the world. It's a fake machete cut with the cutout with the shape of the face. You put it against the face, pull it
Yeah.
back, and then just reverse the footage. And it
Yeah.
looks like you're getting chopped in the head.
Yep.
But so there's a lot of like simple stuff like that for like you or I could do. Not
Hmm.
trying to denigrate because I know you are involved in films as well. But I'm not trying to say like we can't do that so anyone can do it.
Hmm.
But like
Hmm.
but if you have the effort, you or the desire, you could do it.
Oh
But
yeah.
like it shows that like the fan base is really active and really hungry for something new.
Yes. Oh yes.
Um
Actually, Tom McLaughlin, who wrote and directed Part Six. Now he's a big Universal monster fan, so you'll see a
mm,
lot of undertones of like the classic Universal in his film. He actually has a script ready if and when they're ready to make a theatrical one, and it's actually set in the snow, which the fans always wanted a Jason movie in the
yeah,
snow.
visually it would make it more distinct from. I think that's
Yeah.
part of my problem with the series is like a lot of them start blending together in my
Hmm.
brain. I look back at them because it's a lot of just Jason in the woods with kids,
Hmm.
even though I know that there's lots of exceptions to those rules as well.
Hmm.
But that's just when I think back on like I try to think back on more specific stuff. That's just I kind of get lost in the weeds of like what movie took place with certain things. Obviously, I know when he boxes a dude on the in New York, it's in Jason Takes Manhattan. But I think snow something like that would be really cool. Maybe Crystal Lake's frozen over. Maybe like
Hmm.
people are trying to escape him on like they're slipping and sliding, and
Right.
it might be something fun to do. Maybe the ice is starting to crack, and like maybe that's kind of how they're planning to defeat Jason is to get him on thin ice, and like there's a lot of it opens up the environment sort of becomes part of the character unto itself as well.
Right.
I think that would be really cool, and that no pun intended.
Yeah, so actually we did get a Jason in the Snow. Again, Vince DeSanti, Womp Stomp Films, who did Never Hike Alone, which brought back so I don't want to ruin it for any fans or any listeners of your episode who haven't seen it, but it brought back an iconic hero from the franchise, which when I saw it, I was like, I got the hair stood up on my arms.
Mhm.
And so Vince has a whole like uh storyline in his mind. So Never Hiking the Snow just came out last Tuesday, and it's actually a prequel to Never Hike Alone. And it
Okay.
was Never Hike Alone was about a little under an hour. This one was shorter. It was like a half an hour, but it brought back another iconic character, Deputy Rick from Part Six, who had like the big laser on his gun.
Hmm.
So in this one, he's he's the sheriff in this one, and again it has another character from the franchise. And the look of Jason, he's called Ghost Jason because pretty much like when you look at like the skin tone, it's kind of like that grayish color. I like Vince's whole take on Jason, and Never Hike Alone, like it had so many Easter eggs to the original movie. And I had the opportunity when I went to Blairstown last September in 2019 there was a big like intimate gathering of like only like 75 guests, and I got to meet Vince and I had dinner with him, so I got to pick his brain for like the whole night, and
Hmm.
was talking with him. Such a nice guy. And he's a great storyteller, and he loves his fans, and he interacts. We're actually on an Instagram private message thread, and I had added him for to be a part of it for something I was doing at the time. And every once in a while he'll chime in, and the other cosplayers, if like they're talking to each other about how to do this or do this as far as like making their costume, Vince will chime in and give advice, which I think is really cool.
While we're in the middle of plugging all this stuff, where can people find his films? Is there a website?
Yeah, if you go to YouTube, there's Womp Stomp Films. So right
Like
now,
WOMP,
uh,
WMP?
I'm sorry, WOMP, like Womp,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and
I don't
and
know why I
then
said you. I meant
yeah, and then
like
Stomp.
Wampa without the A.
Yeah, Womp Stomp, so STOMP Films.
Hmm.
So on his channel, he has Never Hike Alone, Never Hike in the Snow, and then there's a music video called Disappear, which kind of like took after takes place after Never Hike Alone. It's a really cool video.
Is
Basically,
that's just for funsies?
that's just a fun music video, and
Hmm.
basically, it's just Jason sitting in the cabin, kind of just sitting on the bed, just like he looks sad,
Hmm.
even with the hockey mask on. But then the kids come up in the Jeep and they're swimming in the lake, so he's got to go take care of business. And a little tidbit with the Jeep in the and actually in this Disappear, and I believe in Never Hike in the Snow, it's the same make and model as the Jeep used in the original, but not the like same year. And that's owned by Sean Richards, who I met through a podcast that I contribute to, or I plug Camp Blood Radio. Sean made a documentary in memoriam, Friday 13th Part 3, for Richard Brooker, who played Jason. um, so he's got a lot of connections in the community, and just the stories he tells is really awesome. But I had the privilege, when Sean went to go visit the host Nathan back in probably late February, early March, for the 40th anniversary. They shot like kind of like a spoof of like when Annie gets picked up by Mrs. Voorhees in the original.
Hmm.
So they asked me if I wanted to edit it. And I was like, yeah, sure. So they sent me all the clips, and I put it together. And then Sean, because he's been in the film industry for quite some time, so he would give me advice on, this is great, but you should really do this. So I
Yeah.
learned a lot from him, and it was a fun little video to do.
I was to say we sort of made a fan film last year,
Yeah,
because you were
and
our you were
talk
our
about
mark.
camp.
Yeah, you're our marquee guest at Halloween Comic Fest last year. We
Yeah,
were
that
planning
was
on
fun.
we're planning on doing a follow up with you this year, but obviously
Yeah, things happen.
the world's changed and we couldn't.
Yeah, and that actually came up on my memories a couple of days, maybe a
Yeah,
couple of weeks ago, and I'm like, that was a fun night, but
yeah.
like, my whole vision for that was to be campy, you
Oh
know?
yeah, no, that's why I loved it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
so to set it up for people, I think it's on our YouTube page, so you can watch it there. But to to hype up your appearance there, you come into our store and we hire you, and like so it's Jason in like a Level Up Entertainment t-shirt,
Hmm.
and just some various scenarios where you're working with customers and stuff, or
Yeah, they want to buy a Freddy NECA, and I
yeah,
toss it, and I get
talk
him Jason,
yeah,
and then Freddy
Freddy
shoplifting.
shoplifting, so you fight him. It was a lot of fun. Do you kill me in it? I know I'm a skeleton
And
at the end.
I think I push you off to the side because you're helping a customer.
Yeah, he just
And
pushed me away is what
yeah,
it was.
I
Yeah.
put the help wanted sign like on your chest, and I push you
Yeah,
away.
yeah, that's what it was. But I know at the end we had this like skeleton prop. And I
Yes.
put it in my shirt. I put it in a shirt with my name tag on it, just
Yeah.
holding the sign about like with information for the event at the end. But you didn't
Yeah.
actually kill me. But
And if it wasn't for you, Scott,
yeah,
South Jersey Jason would never have been anything, because you had reached out to me like late summer of 2018 if I would
mhm,
want to be a judge in a costume
yeah,
contest. And you're like, do we have anything to promote you with? And I'm like, well, give me a little bit and I'll think of something. And that's how South Jersey
okay.
was born. So
I didn't realize I was so integral into your birth. Um, because I knew you would had No, what was your first one?
I did Michael Myers. Was my
No,
first.
what was your first Jason though?
Oh, put the part four, the part
Part
four
four. I
one.
couldn't remember if it was
Yeah.
part four or part seven.
Yeah. Well, part seven was I wore that at the Halloween Comic
Yeah,
Fest.
that's probably why
Yeah.
I'm thinking that. But you again, you had been a judge a year beforehand,
Yeah.
which is a
Yeah.
lot of fun. Now I want to point this out, and you have some experience being the man behind the mask, to quote Alex Cooper. That the key to playing Jason, and I think this is harder than people realize, is like because you have no verbal stuff,
Hmm.
you can't use your face. You have to be really like you have to be a real good physical actor, which is
Yes.
why I think Kane Hodder is so beloved because he brought a lot of
Oh
presence.
well, yeah, and that's like
Yeah,
the one credit I will give him, is his physical performance. Yes,
yeah,
he really set the bar as far as the physical performance. The only his and it's not against him. He was just in like the four crappiest written of the whole series,
yeah.
you know.
And I will
But
say, even if the movie's, in my opinion, while like very varying quality, I feel like Jason kind of always has a little bit of like he's kind of always Jason.
mhm,
Like he's never really like to me, in my opinion, he's never really like that bad.
mhm,
Like it's in terms of like a performance, like or like like a character, because like he's never. I don't want to say never, but he's almost like even in the sillier movies, he's never really the joke.
right,
Like he's always threatening, and I think that's
mhm,
part of what works for him.
yeah,
Whereas if he was like when Pinhead went to space, uh it was really silly and dumb, and like it's just, that was, I mean, that movie is also bad. Like it's directed, or was it written by Alan Smithy, which
mhm,
means someone did not want their name attached to it because it's so
yeah.
bad.
I actually like that one.
Like I said, I like dumb schlocky horror movies,
Yeah,
but I was never a big Hellraiser guy to begin with. But again, we're getting off topic a little bit.
yeah, yeah.
But like even like the really bad Looney Tunes Elm Street movies, like it's kind of the same thing with Freddy. And I mean, it's probably easier to say that with Freddy because Robert Englund has a full performance. Like he brings a lot of personality to that. Like
Hmm.
it's really hard to imagine somebody not like him not playing him.
And that's like I call it like the Christopher Reeve curse.
Yeah,
Yeah. Unfortunately, whoever plays Freddy next, which the internet would love to see Kevin Bacon, which I could see.
I could
You know,
see, but like
yeah.
I don't know who I'd want to cast. I don't know.
I didn't think Jackie Earl Haley wasn't all that bad.
I think
It,
he needed to be in a different movie.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah, I can see him as Freddy. My only my big problems with that reboot, so I guess we'll talk about that for a second, is one, they made him an overt pedophile, which is always kind of
hmm
like a hidden thing. Once
hmm
you make it overt, it's like, ooh, this isn't fun anymore.
that's what lost it for me. Yes.
Yeah, I was like, oh God. As I know they were going for a more scary thing, but like then making him this goofy dream monster, like then I don't know, tonally it does not work.
Hmm.
That I think his design was pretty bad. He looks like a cat.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and like this could work because Freddy doesn't necessarily need to be physically intimidating.
Hmm.
Like because they were going for a more, I think they should have gone a jokier route with him. But because he's trying to be like intimidating, he's really short.
Yeah,
Like he's shorter than half the kids he's supposed to be like terrorizing, and it's like,
yeah, yeah.
again, I'm not trying to blame on him. I think he's got a good voice, and I
Hmm.
appreciate that they tried to do something different with him,
Yeah, yeah.
because that's my especially with reboots. I don't mind them in and of themselves. Just give me some, as long as it's got to be good, and just if you want to give me something new. That's one of the reasons I don't like the new Star Wars movies. Like that soft reboot, it's just like, oh, it's just the same movies again, but not as good. Um, so I don't
Right.
know. Uh, so I think, but like in regards to the Friday 13th, like if they do come out with a new movie, like say it's announced tomorrow before this podcast, I finish editing it and it comes out that like it's settled. There's a new Friday movie in the works. It'll be out, next year or something. And it's
Hmm.
whether it's a reboot or a sequel, I think they can just call it Friday the 13th and not have an origin and just have Jason just show up and nobody's gonna do
Yeah, I
anything
think,
about it.
people know the stories of all these characters so well. You
Yeah.
don't need an origin story
You could just
anymore.
have one of the characters mention like Camp Crystal Lake. Isn't that where that kid drowned and then came back as a killer?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
that's all you need.
yeah, yeah.
And as long as I think the trick though is you need to make the victims, like, they don't have to be super complex, but you need to at least make them interesting. Like, you need to have a reason to care that
Exactly.
they're in danger. Like,
Yes.
as much fun as it is that, like, oh, watching, these killers like do what they do. If you're not worried about what's going to happen to the characters, it's just like, oh, just move on. Like,
And that
it
was
loses me. Like,
the problems with 7 and 8. I
yeah,
didn't give a I didn't care about the characters at all. You
yeah,
know.
and that's
Uh,
and because those ones came out when I was a little bit older, they were the ones I was more aware of.
mhm.
So like that's where I was like, yeah, this isn't, because it was like these characters no personality. I was like, yeah, Jason doesn't really have personality. Like, I didn't take onto the series since that, but I've since gone back and I've watched them all at least once, even though it has been a minute.
Mhm.
Normally for these podcasts,
Well, it's on AMC right now.
yeah, I'm sure it is. But normally for these podcasts, I'll refamiliarize myself with
Yeah.
what it was
Yep.
beforehand. But like, how many movies are there? Like 13 of them?
12.
12? All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so that means perfect. The next one's Friday the 13th and make it really big.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but that's a lot of movies. I was thinking about I tried to find like YouTube clips of just like, oh, all the times Jason killed somebody, and like, here's
Right. Well, he's got the most body count out of all like the three big ones, him,
yeah.
Freddie, and Michael. But see, they include like when the ship exploded.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, so that's why his count's so
that's cheating a
high.
little bit. But
It is cheating.
that said, even
But
without that, I think he
even
is.
if you
Yeah.
even if you don't count that, he does have the higher body count.
Yeah, and to be fair, I think he's also had the most movies.
Yeah, I think Michael Myers, the Halloween franchise, might be a close second.
Oh man, and talk about, well, see, all right, so Friday 13th. This is an interesting comparison then. So like we mentioned, Friday 13th was meant to be like a kind of a Halloween ripoff.
Yeah.
But like, why does Jason work for sequels and Michael Myers not? Because all of those sequels are bad.
Yeah, probably because you know Michael didn't have anything wrong with him other than there was something that made him kill his sister. So in part 1 and part 2, he's just an average guy, although he got shot 6 times, and then the hospital caught on fire, and then all of a sudden in part 4 he has like superhuman capabilities, where Jason, um, I would say after part 2 you knew something was up with him. So like in part 4 he's somewhat dead already. Like he's a humanoid. And it wasn't until I got the Blu-rays that I really picked up on in part 4 when he's like in the morgue or whatever, and there you see like when he's being carted back, you see his chest like go up and down, and then when we put him in the ice box, that's when you see the breath going through the holes of the hockey mask. I never picked up on that until like I watched it in Blu-ray for the first time. Yeah, Michael Myers, like I actually like, out of the sequels, I like part 4, when he's going after his niece for the first time. Not so much part 5, but I got a soft spot for part 6, The Curse of Michael Myers,
Is that the
which
one with Ludacris? Oh no, it's
no,
Busta Rhymes.
no. That's
Yeah.
before Buster. No,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
no. Part 6 came out in like '94, I think. It was actually Paul Rudd's first movie.
Yeah, predates Clueless.
Yeah, it actually not by only by like a year.
Yeah, and I just know they're close.
Yeah. Part 6 came out before H2O in '98.
Yeah.
So, which H2O was cool for its time, but again, that's when the horror movie started getting into that Dawson's Creek.
Well, like
casting.
Scream kind of really, I don't know. It was a real paradigm shift for like the subgenre of slashers.
Yeah. But Scream brought the slashers back in a way,
But like it brought them back in, but the way it did that, I don't think they could operate the way they used to. And I don't think a lot of franchises really realized that. Like or at least were able to capitalize it on it in an interesting way. I mean, I'm curious in that body count thing. Did they count New Nightmare as Freddy kills? Because it's sort of not.
I never looked into the New Nightmare one. I've only seen just like the total count. It wasn't a deep description.
Yeah.
But I mean, I honestly, they probably shouldn't count the New Nightmare. Like they
Well, if I
shouldn't
want to
have.
be one of that nerd, well, technically it's this different entity that
Yeah,
trapped in the Nightmare on Elm Street movies and not actually the character of Freddy Krueger. I'm like,
and I always
if I
wondered.
want to be that guy, you can be
It
that
was
guy.
Freddy, but it wasn't Freddy,
Yeah,
and but people really didn't complain about it. But when you have Jason Goes to Hell,
yeah.
everyone complained about that because Jason was only in it for maybe 10 minutes the whole movie.
Yeah.
In between the beginning and the ending, he was body swapping.
Yeah, that sorry, that's the one where like people like eat his heart and like get possessed
Yes.
by him. Oh, I remember.
Yeah.
I think that might have been the first one I watched, and I was like, "Oh, I'm finally going to watch Friday the 13th movie and see what all this fuss is about." I'm watching. I'm like, "What is happening?"
Yeah, that's the first Friday that I saw in the theater at the good old Tilton back in 1993. And I just remember watching like the TV spots for it. And then the cool poster for the movie. And I'm like, well, where's the hockey mask at? I didn't see that chrome hockey mask. I like it.
Yeah,
I'm one of the few that liked it when it first came out. And again, it has its own following. Adam Marcus, this is his first movie that he made out of like film school, and he's gotten a lot of heat for it. But you know what? He doesn't care. He embraces it. He's actually in the middle of making a documentary called Hearts of Darkness, the making of Jason Goes to Hell, which that was the original title, Hearts of Darkness, for Jason Goes to Hell.
it's
He's a
interesting
really
that that was the Apocalypse Now thing.
yeah. He's a super nice guy. We're friends on Facebook. We talk every so often. He's helped me with a little project I did back in February. He's a busy guy, so like I'll message him every once in a while, and sometimes he'll get back to me right away. Sometimes he won't. It's an honor to have him like my stuff on the South Jersey Jason Facebook page from time to time. But yeah, just a really cool guy. And he was actually going to be at Chiller back like in March, but obviously that was
Yeah,
canceled.
it's 2020, so everyone knows what the deal is.
Yeah.
We don't even need to say it.
I'm
But no, that's
just
cool, and it's cool that you've gotten to meet a lot of these people that were very involved in the series over the years. And they all seem, from your stories you've told me, most people seem to be pretty chill
yeah,
and
I
like
would
excited to
say
talk about it.
I only had like one letdown.
And
I
we don't
won't
need
say
to
the
put them on
name.
blast. Yeah,
Yeah. Um I was happy to finally meet him. He wasn't an actor, but he was involved in one of the movies, and I was really let down. Like he just felt like he didn't want to be there. I didn't even want to talk to him because he just gave off a really bad vibe.
and to be fair, the celebrity zoos and stuff at these conventions, like sometimes you get people on a bad day because they are people, and
Hmm.
like maybe they were having a bad con or something. They're just like, oh god,
Yeah,
like,
but every single person that I've met at whether it was at Monster Mania or NJ HorrorCon or at Camp Crystal Lake tour, they've all been very nice. And the person that leads the troop is Adrienne King, who played Alice in the original and Real Quick in part two. I've met her 3 times, and she remembers her fans. She may not remember your name, but she remembers like, oh, I just saw you not too long ago,
oh,
and
that's cool.
yeah, and she'll talk to everyone for, depending on how long the line is, she'll base it off of how long it is, and really talk to you, and just make you feel really at home. Yeah, so she's such a nice lady.
No,
And
that's always the best at a convention when like you feel like people are even if it's only a couple minutes, if you feel like someone's being generous with their time, you really appreciate it.
yeah,
I've had mostly positive experiences with meeting comic book writers and artists and the various celebrities and stuff I've met over the years.
yeah,
I also have a couple bad experiences, which again I'm not going to put anyone on blast because one of them speaking ill of the dead now, unfortunately. But but if that's a little piece of advice, if you're a famous person listening to this somehow, um, you just fake it a little bit and it goes a long way.
yeah, yeah. um you know the My favorite meeting was probably Larry Zerner, who played Shelley in part three, he basically was the person to give Jason his hockey mask. He was the jokester of the movie, always pulling pranks, and he had the hockey mask. It was my very first Monster Mania that I attended. I want to say it was maybe 2012 or 2013, and Irene and I were still dating, and it was towards the end of the day. I'm like, oh, it's Larry's Earns. I didn't see his table, and I was like, there's no one there. So I introduced myself and I said, this is my girlfriend, Irene. And he's like, girlfriend, you bring a lovely lady to a horror convention? Like, say something like, you better put a ring on it
Mhm.
eventually. So a year later, I proposed to Irene, and Larry and I are friends on Facebook. So I sent him a really nice message, like to say, hey, you probably don't remember me, but I told him the story, and I sent a picture that we got engaged. Immediately, he congratulated me and then shared my message on his page. So
Oh,
that was
that's
really cool.
adorable, actually.
Yeah, and he's actually he's an entertainment lawyer now. Or I'm sorry, yeah, he's in entertainment and he does like copyrights. But about 2 or 3 years ago, he represented a car builder that DC Comics was suing
Mhm.
because he was making, I think it was the either the original like 66 Batman cars or like the 89 one,
Mhm.
but they weren't
Well,
to a T.
I know the '66 era, like that whole show had a lot of legal problems because like
Mm-hmm.
Fox had a stake in it, and obviously Warner Brothers then bought DC Comics after it was made. So my if I had to guess, it probably would have been the '60s one.
Okay. So like but it wasn't to a T, like he would leave some certain things out, but
Mhm.
DC was still, suing him. I forget the outcome, but it was and it was a televised court case. Like you can go to this website and watch it. So it's pretty cool to see Shelley Finkelstein, I think his last name was, as a lawyer now, and seeing him practice law is pretty cool. But yeah, he's a really cool guy to talk to. Again, makes you feel at home. Every I would say just about I've only had really one bad experience going to like a convention. I have a great time. Irene loves going because she likes going to see the vendors, and she has a way of, if she sees an actor, taking a selfie with them, where if they're at the table and you have their handlers like, oh, no, no cell phone photos.
Yeah.
So I go and I'm all clamming up like a little schoolgirl.
See, I don't want this is gonna sound like a brag. Whenever I never really get starstruck when I meet famous people, especially if I know I'm going to see them. When I met Kevin Eastman, it was a surprise. So
Hmm.
I was one where I was really like, oh no, I didn't plan it out in my brain.
Yeah.
I've met people like LeVar Burton and stuff, and they're like super nice guy.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
Friday 13th specifically related, but
Yeah.
just as an example, he's probably the most, or like DMC's been at the store. He's also awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. He seems like a really down to earth guy.
He's one
Yeah,
of those guys
one of
that's
the great
really generous
things
with stuff.
about
Like he
being,
wants to talk to you. Like
yeah, yeah. Um, one of the since the one of the things that I really wanted to do when I got into the whole cosplay world was I never thought I've been doing it really for when I first did it for Level Up back in like 2018, it was kind of like just like a one and done type thing. But it wasn't until May of 2019 when I said, what, I'm gonna start posting more. And I went to the Blairstown Museum and interviewed the curator for the first time, and that's when I started getting more likes and people were commenting. And then they invited me to come up for Jason Fest, which was a 3-day event that they were having to honor or commemorate the opening of the Friday 13th Museum. And that's kind of like what got my foot in the door to meet people who worked within the franchise and the fan film directors. And that's when I started networking, and many doors have opened for me, and I'm very grateful for it. And in meeting the actors and becoming friends with them on social media, it's awesome to know that, hey, I'm doing this video for a kid that has um, autism. Do you mind sending me a happy birthday video? Within minutes, Ron Sloan from Part 5, he's got the back black drop, looking good, just a super nice guy, and his character is very memorable from part 5. He was Junior who lived with mom. But yeah, I'm very grateful for all the doors I've opened and everyone who's helped me get to where I am, like level up. You guys are one of like my biggest supporters, and again,
Yeah.
without you, I wouldn't be here.
Well, I wasn't inviting you on to fish for compliments, but I'll take them. Well, speaking of, I wanted to talk to you about your cosplay stuff a little bit, and this seems like a very natural segue. So let's get into
Hmm.
that. Uh,
Okay.
so, I mean, I was going to ask you what your inspiration was to start doing Jason, but it probably was just love of the franchise and the character and wanting to.
Yeah, like I've always loved Friday the 13th, but what really revitalized my love for it was when the online game came out in
Mm,
2017. And I never played online games before, and I met so many awesome fans within the franchise, and that's what kind of rejuvenated my love for the character. And I'm like, I want to start cosplaying now.
I say I love a lot of stuff about that game. I know it had its problems, but what a
Mhm.
great idea for an asymmetrical like game.
Yeah, yeah,
Like one person's Jason and one person and everyone else is the campers, and they need to work together before Jason kills them all.
yeah, yeah,
So such an awesome idea. I
yeah.
don't think it's a playable anymore. I think
uh
didn't it get caught up with like the legal
It
issues.
got caught the lawsuit because the next maps were I believe were going to be like Jason X, and actually have like the Uber Jason skin and whatnot. But unfortunately, because of the lawsuit, they couldn't do any more updates. But they'll still do patchwork, and
Okay.
people still play the online. I mean, my friends play like every night still. Like my really close friends that are also cosplayers. I'm like, I kind of fell out of it when the physical copy came out and the little kids started playing.
Yeah, I know that's
And
part of the issue with it as well. Yeah.
yeah, but they have like the single player challenges. Like I wish there was like a storyline with it though, like the
Yeah. Yeah, to be fair, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I guess you could just play through the scenarios in the movies, but I guess a single there'd probably be two. My guess would there probably be like a split story, like a
Mhm.
Jason, like a Jason only story where like you just have to kill all the kids. But like then there'd probably be ones where like you have to be like the campers from the different movies and
Yeah, and
like get but
that
like
would have been
maybe work through more
awesome.
less randomized
Yes.
puzzles and like have more specific challenges. It can still be on the same maps,
Right.
just to save on development time. I don't think it needs to be that deep,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
just something you can mess with. But anyway, we're getting
Yeah, we're
kind of off
going.
topic.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So, when I decided like what did I want to do for my first cosplay, now I unfortunately I don't have any artistic capabilities. Like I have a vast knowledge of useless information, but I can't do like weathering clothing and whatnot. So I said, let me do something really easy to kind of start out with. And so I said, let me just do part 4. So I started like going to different thrift stores, and I found like the olive green button up and the gray pants. I had already had a pair of dirty boots, and then I was looking, just googling like Jason under mask, and I came across this one company that the hood, as they call it, the under mask, relatively cheap. It wasn't like top quality work, but I wasn't going for quality at the time. And then I got a part 4 hockey mask, which again, it's okay, but it's not like a top quality hockey mask. So, I wore it for Halloween, and then, the next year, that August, you reached out to me and I did the Halloween Comic Fest. And then in like the spring of 19, I wanted to do a different costume, but I knew I didn't have the capabilities of doing my own. So I figured, let me go on Etsy and just see what's out there. And I came across a part 7, which looked really good, and the price was affordable. So I had a million questions. So I emailed the seller, and he was quick to respond. And I said, I apologize, but I have so many questions. And he's like, no, no, that's what I'm here for. I want to make sure that your costume comes out great. So after talking with him for about a day or two, I put the order in, and that was probably like sometime in April, and I had it um, probably like June, and I was just so impressed. It was like near screen accurate that wouldn't burn a hole in your wallet. So I debuted it at Blairstown in 2019, and on Saturday the 14th, I was the guest Jason on the trolley tour. And before, because the trolley tour, they take you to all the filming locations. It's a really um, awesome time. So follow Blairstown Museum on Facebook, and hopefully next year they will be able to do trolley tours again. But before I got on the trolley tour, Ari Lehman, who is, they call him First Jason because he is the little boy version of Jason in the original that comes out of the lake. He came up to me, put his hand on my shoulder, and said, "Awesome costume." So right there, I was like, "Yeah," you know. So I did the tour, and everyone had a great job. So at the tour, you know, they go to the different locations, and they give you like 15 minutes to take photos, and they also give you the history of when they filmed the scene, um, and how it was then to how it looks now. I was really interactive with the trolley tour guest, and I made their experience more fun. Um, so, and I'm, you know, I'm posting pictures. I'm on Facebook Live. James Ingram, who designed my costumes of J3 Jason costumes, he messaged me and said, "Dude, you're awesome. I can't believe, like, you know, how great you look." And you know, he's seen people's comments. um, and then I went to the Asbury Zombie Walk shortly after that, and again, you know, I'm all over social media promoting his costumes, because a good rule of thumb is if you have someone make your costume, you tag them in your pictures, you give them a shout out. It's the right thing to do. So I'm in Asbury Park, and you know, had a great time at the Zombie Walk, and he messaged me and was like, "Dude, thank you. You're it's awesome." You know, so I'm helping get his store out there more. You know,
Yeah, no,
um,
that's one of the reasons, we promote you. We like to, it's good to cross promote people, especially those you
exactly.
have
Yes.
a relationship with. And if he's, not to denigrate what you do as well, but if he's like the secret sauce to your
Oh,
cosplay,
he is the secret
yeah.
sauce, and
So you
this is
definitely want to,
actually going to segue into my
yeah.
next thing. We have formed such a great friendship over the past year. He's such a great guy. Like, I don't know how he finds time to make all the costumes, because he's got a regular 9 to 5. He's married with 2 kids, one of them which is like a month old. You know, so I give him a lot of credit. So right around the holidays. He wanted to do more of a relationship together, you know, cross promoting. So he said, "I want to be your sponsor." I said, "Wow, that's great." You know, I never in a million years thought that would ever come at my door. So he had an idea of a costume that he wanted to do, which you haven't seen in person yet, but that was my 6'7". He got the idea off of a figure. It's called One Customs. It's like, I don't know where they're located, but the it makes Sideshow give them a run for their money, you know. But the figures are like $1,000 starting off at, and they're like the same size as Sideshow. So he sent me these pictures, and I'm like, "Dude, that's awesome. Let's do it," you know. So that was like a secret project that he worked on, and you know, I debuted that March of 2013, and then he said, "How do you feel about part 8?" And I said, "I really wasn't that big of a fan. I don't know if I would want to invest your time in something like that." He said, "All right, all right." But he always wanted to do NES. He wanted to do NES something. He did a part 7, but it didn't
I
really
know I
take.
pushed you a little bit to do it.
You pushed
Yes,
me.
at one point, yeah,
So literally, maybe a couple of weeks after he had asked me about NES, you approached me with the idea for Halloween Comic Fest, and I was like, "Wow, it's funny you should say
yeah,
that." So I immediately talked with him, and he got right on it. And this was more like it was a passion project for him, because he wanted to do something different that hasn't been done before. Now, some Jason cosplayers might incorporate some type of glow in the dark effect with
yeah.
like the hockey mask. We went from head to toe, except for the hockey mask.
I was about to
So
say, I haven't seen it in person because 2020 is an unending nightmare. But I've seen the pictures and it looks awesome. I
yeah, It's
So did you base it more off one of the movies? Because the
yeah,
gaming's not, it's not really
it's
distinct.
not the gaming factor.
Yeah,
It's a part 8. It's a part 8
yeah.
NES because no one's done an NES part 8. So Jim wanted to test the waters to see if anyone would be interested. So basically, I'm his guinea pig when it comes to like these little projects.
That's fine.
So it was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears on Jim's part, And the one thing about Jim, he keeps you updated throughout the whole process too. He'll send you photos and stuff. So yeah, I've only worn it for 2 photo shoots at the pop-up con at the showboat. The first day I wore it because I wanted to do a photo shoot. It was like close to 100 degrees out.
Oh yeah.
And I lasted maybe like 15 minutes in it. It's very comfortable. I would have to say out of like the 3 costumes that had the latex, it's the most comfortable one. So the cool thing about it is it can glow in the dark in 2 ways. You can go out in the sun for like 5-10 minutes, and the charge lasts, I think, from 5 to 7 hours. And when it's like fully charged, it's the predator green blood, but
Okay.
I looked like I walked out of a nuclear power plant. Um, and then you can also get a cool effect if you have a really good black light, like a stage level, like a play,
Yeah.
yeah, like that caliber. So I have a buddy that he might be bringing that type of light down with him on a Friday. But what I really want to do is capture it on video because you can take a cell phone video and it captures the glow in the dark really good. But if you use a regular cell phone video camera, it gives it a gray scale
Yeah,
color.
stuff like that usually, unless you have a really high-end camera or video recorder, it stuff usually doesn't translate well.
Yeah,
It's like when you see video of like fireworks, like it's just white.
yeah.
But
So
they're always really cool in person.
yeah, so and actually I think that's out of all my costumes, that's the most menacing look for some reason. I think it's really, when I look at it, I think it's just the hockey mask that makes it look, in my opinion, a little bit more menacing.
Mhm.
But it also like it fits me really well in like it's like the shoulder area too. So I have to say, what can I say? But
Yeah.
no, I really like it. And the tricky part with it was I started a partnership with James Photography and Imaging back in um, maybe April. So she's a professional photographer who has only done weddings and real estate. But what she also does is at Smithville, when they have like Zombie Santa, she's
Hmm.
the photographer for that. She's always wanted to start photographing cosplayers. So we worked out a partnership with photo shoots, and we wanted to incorporate the green screen photo, which we did back in March with Level Up, and for what happened that weekend, we had a nice little turnout. Um, the tricky
Yeah, I
part
would say
with the
all things
NES,
considered, that was a pretty good one. Just that was
yeah,
right as COVID was shutting everything down. In fact, we were shut down like
yeah,
a couple days later.
yeah, yeah. We had a nice turnout for 3 hours. So the tricky part with the NES is, well, I can't use a green screen because the skin is green.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I'm going to be like a floating. So she ordered a blue screen, and thankfully the
It's
blue
not the
screen is
same
a
kind of
darker
blue.
blue.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So she came over this past week, and um, she brought the blue screen, and we put like my clothing and stuff on it, and she took some photos, so she's going to test it out. So hopefully, whenever you guys are able to have those great free comic book days and Halloween Comic Fest again, we're going to do what you wanted to do with
Yeah.
the
We're
NES
not
Jason.
I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but I'm really hoping Free Comic Book Day next year realistically could be a thing we do.
Mm-hmm.
Halloween Comic Fest this year is not gonna
Oh yeah,
it's not
yeah.
gonna be a thing,
I'm
but
you know I'm crossing my fingers for Free Comic Book Day because those events are fun. You know.
I man, I really missed doing it this year.
Yeah.
I love putting them together. Again, I mean, I guess this podcast really is an advertisement for the store, but I'm not just trying to shill it. I legitimately do really love doing them, and I do miss that I
Yeah,
not just as a business from a business upset about it closing up, but personally as well. It's also a
yeah.
lot of fun to get everyone together, and
Mm-hmm.
it's usually a really hectic day for us because we have to run around and do this big
Yeah,
event, and like we have to work it.
yeah.
But it's still fun, and you get it's the comments you get like, oh, I'm bring my kids this every year. That like kind of really keep you going in it. Otherwise, you would just be tired. But
Yeah.
um,
So, when that day comes, we're doing what you wanted to do, and Jen has the screen captures of the old NES Camp Crystal Lake map, and we're going to do Camp Level Up over Crystal Lake, so we don't get any copyright infringements from LJN.
oh yeah, no, well, I think LGN's defunct. I don't know who
Yeah,
those
yeah.
games that they did anymore,
Um,
but
but also, in addition to J3, who does my clothing, I have to also give a shout out to Curse Custom Weathering, who's made me the part 6-7 hockey mask. And it's a proper hockey mask because, again, with continuity, from 6 to 7, the propeller blade damage went from the one side to the other side, so that's another continuity. Lipstick Legion, my friend Jen West, she made the NES hockey mask, and she actually made me a new part 7 hockey mask for my new part 7 costume that's coming. And also Horror FX Design, who weathered the for my part 6-7 the belt, the machete, the dart pouch, and created the NES fire axe. Because when I looked at his website, he didn't have the fire axe up at the time, and I did see it in the past, and I said, hey, I'm doing this NES costume, can you do the fire axe? He's like, yeah, sure, sure. I said, just don't share it, because this is going to be a surprise, announcement. But obviously you can share the picture, just not don't tag me in it. And everyone loved his hockey mask, or his fire axe. I'm sorry, and
mhm.
it looks legit real from far away. And when people say, "Can I touch it?" and they're like, "Oh, it's rubber," I'm like, "Yeah."
Oh yeah, yeah. That's we talked about that in a cosplay episode we did earlier in this month. Don't bring real weapons
Yeah,
when you cosplay.
like my machete for my 6-7, I couldn't wear it. I couldn't bring it to like your Halloween Comic Fest or Free Comic Book Day, because it's a real machete. It's just very dull, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. We would not want you to bring it anyway.
No, 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 no.
Like the cops do us a favor on that, and I don't want to get us in
Yeah,
trouble as
yeah.
well. But
So
we've had issues in the past where people have like realistic looking weapons.
yes, yeah.
Like when Negan first became a thing in the Walking Dead TV show, everyone was cosplaying him. They'd have bats with like rubber nails and stuff in it, but
Oh
they're
my
like
gosh,
football bats.
yeah, yeah,
I've had random grandmas call the cops, and it's just like, oh my god, yeah, but because they put like blood splatters on it, because that's anyway.
yeah,
Yeah, if it's borderline, just always err on the side of caution. When you do
yeah.
like private photo shoots and stuff, that's a horse of a different color. But it's and that's just not for coming to our events. Like, don't go to New York Comic Con with a real machete.
Yeah, yeah. I
Like,
mean, there are builders that do make con safe weapons,
oh
such
yeah,
as
and there's some
our
con safe
X.
weapons that like look amazing.
Yeah, like my first
Like I said, that
machete.
ask not the ask the axe is rubber, but it looks really good.
Yeah, my second machete that I bought was actually a Walking Dead machete. It's all foam, and except for like the handle, I think it's like a hard rubber, but
I
the
was gonna guess
blade.
like a hard plastic or something.
Yeah, and the blade was just all foam, and people thought from afar it looked real, but I mean, obviously, as you got closer, you could tell it's fake. But with like my axe, people will get within a couple feet of me, and they're like, "Is that real?" I'm like, "Here, feel it."
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm going to finish out this year with a screen accurate part 7. James actually he's got different molds for the chest and the spine, and what it's going to be different is I'm going to have basically a glove sleeve of like the zombie hand,
Hmm.
and he actually got a new mold of the hood, and it looks really good. And the hood it's a master mold made by Brandon Scott Murphy, who's very well known in the community. And I'm already thinking about 2021. I'm going to be taking it back and bringing the sack back.
Okay.
Um, you
I was
don't
gonna ask what maybe your next project was, but no, that's good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so guys, like my age, in their 40s, 50s, we have a soft spot for the sack, because with the fan films, up until like, there's only been like maybe one fan film that had the sack, and really what was not that great. My friend Dave is making a fan film that could literally, like, you could put it in your collection in between part one and part two. So I wanted to come up with something somewhat original with the sack, because basically when people see the sack, they kind of just do like the flannel with the blue suspenders, which it's an okay look, but I want to put my own little twist on
The
it.
suspenders
So,
make it look a little dorky.
well, the not suspenders, I'm sorry, the overalls, the
Oh,
overalls, I'm
okay, yeah.
sorry.
I was gonna
Yeah,
say
yeah, I don't know why I was thinking suspenders.
it's fine. It's a thing that goes over your shoulder and
Yeah,
it keeps your
so
pants up regardless.
So what I'm doing is I'm kind of killing two birds with one stone, because I want to rehaul my part four and make it more screen accurate. So basically, it's going to be like a part four style, but if you never got the hockey mask, so it's going to be the sack.
Okay.
So, but then I'm also going to have another set of a top piece. Again, I got the inspiration from One Customs, and basically it's like the gray pants still, but it's kind of like a thermal shirt with like a leisure coat from like the 50s. It's really cool looking, like a hobo type look,
Hmm.
with the sack or with the hockey mask. And those are simple weathering stuff. I'm not gonna, thank God I won't have to wear like compression suit with the latex out in the summertime.
Yeah, well, Jason likes to wear like the dress in layers to begin with. So
Yeah, because I actually did an event this past Saturday, and while it was warm during the day, I'm sweating. But then as soon as that sun went down, my compression clothing is already wet with sweat, but then it got cold, and then I have like air conditioning inside my
mhm.
costume. So those are my next ideas. James would like to do a Jason Goes to Hell, but not based off of the look in the movie. He wants to do it based off of the Todd McFarlane Movie Maniac version.
Excuse me.
So, it looks a lot different than what the the movie gave us, especially with the hockey
That's
mask.
cool. Would you
So,
guys ever want to try like a South Jersey Jason original design?
oh yeah, I'm all for original. It's really just like us sitting down and
Yeah.
planning it out. Like that's what we did for NES Part 8, because there was so many intricate things with it, as far as getting the tones the same, and do we want to, like, how do we want the chevrons to look, so I did a Zoom meeting with James Ingram of J3 Costumes and Jen West of Lipstick Legion, and we had a video conference and basically planned the whole thing out, and then they talked to each other during the process, because what Jen didn't start the painting of the hawk until she started seeing Jim's work on the clothing, and
Hmm.
then she used that vision to create the hawk, and the final product was just incredible. But yeah, I would love to do, actually I do have an idea of like kind of like an original concept that I want to do, and again it could involve the sack and um, a particular type of weapon that's iconic towards like the earlier movies, not the machete, something else. Um,
I'm not gonna guess at it. I could probably guess a couple of them, but I'll
yeah,
keep that as a surprise. I was gonna ask maybe if you had any ideas for what you want to do, but if you want to keep it under wraps for now, as
yeah. I don't have like any like
because I'm
really
trying to think something that would scream South Jersey, like, oh, you're wearing a Flyers jersey or something. I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah,
I mean I could, like, well, not so much Flyers, but
yeah.
yeah, well, I mean, yeah, I guess South Jersey Flyers, but if anything it'd be like, technically Jason's from North Jersey, so he'd be a
Yeah.
Devils fan.
But you're South Jersey,
South
Jason.
Jersey, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, oh yeah, I could always, like, if I just, for giggles, if I wanted to like get a hockey mask and have it like the color of like the Eagles
Oh, I didn't
jersey
even think about
or
that. You
something.
can just get an actual Flyers hockey mask. That's probably why I went to a hockey team first.
Oh, gotcha,
Yeah.
gotcha. I gotcha.
Yeah. That's probably why, because really, I think the bigger sport down here would be either the Eagles or the Phillies.
Yeah, I mean, I could always just get like a generic hockey jersey and put like like SJJ on the back and
Yeah.
number's 13, you know?
Yeah, I know they've made like they make like hockey jerseys and stuff for all kinds of things.
Yeah,
I've seen Jason ones, the numbers 13 and stuff.
yeah, yeah. But you know, in the Friday the 13th community, I've met a lot of great cosplayers. Like I'm in this Instagram message group with a lot of great guys, and they all give great advice to everyone. And there's a few that are, you know, teenagers like 15, 16, and they're designing their own clothing and making their own hocks. And I'm like, I wish I had talent like that, you know, when I was their age, or when, you know, at the age right now.
Dude, I feel for you. I have a couple of cosplays. And again, we've talked about this in some of our cosplay episodes, but like I can't manufacture anything. I
Yeah,
kind of just need to buy it. The
yeah.
most work I put into is my Ghostbusters one, but it's
Hmm.
just you buy a bunch of things and just literally just wear them at the
Yeah.
same time.
So like you know, and that's why I always give credit to the makers, because without them, you know, I'm not a cosplayer. So I always say my art is bringing their work to life,
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
know. And you know, I have a blast. Like last year, I was invited to out to Ocean View Fire Company. They do like a haunted attraction for a fundraiser. He saw my stuff on social media, and he had me basically work the front of the crowd while they're waiting to buy their tickets. You know, I'm very well known now in the town of Smithville due to Mike Spangola, the Underground. He
Yeah.
uh, he invited me to come out to art walk, and that whole connection was through Mark Hills. I went out to art walk, and you know, I had a table. I was selling some merchandise that we had made, just like buttons and prints. And then Mike asked me if I wanted to come out to Zombie Santa, and I said, yeah, sure. You know, so I was just like hanging out, but then people were asking me to be in the photos with them,
Hmm.
and I had a great time. And then since then, Mike has invited me to come back to like every event that he does.
No,
So and
that's one of the one of the great things. Like as someone who also puts on events and has a lot of similar connections to you, is like when you hit it off with somebody in our community here, like you're always getting pulled, like you're pulled back into other things. Like
right,
unless you're like that special kind of person where it's like, oh God, you usually get I usually keep a big list of everyone's contacts, and not everyone can make it to everything. That's fine.
hmm
Like, you know, life happens or whatever. But like, you know, we've also got a pretty, which is why Free Comic Book Day got as big as it did. Is, you know, we get a lot of the same people coming out every year, and then we always get new people, and it gets bigger and bigger. So that is something it's nice to know. Like, you know, you also got, you know, your connections out there as well. So we don't get
yeah,
out to
and
Smithville for these things, but
again, it's all about that networking. You can't, you know, it's about, you know, if you want to get known, you got to like, it's like cold calling, you know.
you got to put yourself out there and you got to promote yourself.
Yeah,
And
exactly. And that's what I worked on very hard in the past year. And like I said, I never knew starting, you know, starting it for like to do it more than just like a one time being a costume judge.
and to be
That I,
honest, it's still it's still a fun hobby for you. It's not like you're an
yeah,
all consuming. It's not like your
right.
job, you know.
No, I mean, sometimes it feels like a
Oh yeah,
second
I
job,
can
like the
sure,
amount of time I put
but
into
but
it.
but it's still, you're still doing it because it's fun.
Yeah, and what I also wanted to do to like just to show thanks was I wanted to start using my brand for fundraisers. So my very first fundraiser I did was for the Atlantic County Animal Shelter. You know, we did like
Oh yeah, we did this last year, right?
yeah, yep, at Christmas
Yeah.
time, yep. So we had like the prints for like the raffles that were either mine or I had donated from the community from like another fan film actor, and then it all cultivated at this music festival I went to where, you know, if you come, you can like drop off items for the animal shelter. So, you know, I mean, it, you know, I, you know, didn't raise a lot, maybe like $100, but still, even $1 helps, you know.
Yeah, of course.
Me, I'm an overachiever and I wanted to make more. But you know, they were thankful of the money and the items donated. And then since then, that kind of kickstarted my fundraising. So,
I'm saying, I
um,
know you've helped us with a couple of our fundraisers. I think last year we live streamed you. I think we played the NES
yes,
Friday 13th game
yeah,
for our. It
yes,
used to be a 24-hour live stream, but like we're every year we get older and we were like, we'll just do it during the store hours. I can't do it all. I
yeah,
can't do it
yeah.
anymore. So
Um,
you did one of our hours with us. We almost always raise money for CHOP,
yeah,
which was
yeah.
the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, which is one that's near and dear to our hearts.
Hmm.
I know Brian, who used to work, another Brian who used to work
Hmm.
at our store, and his wife still does. His younger siblings have been benefited from that, so we always try to promote them if we can. Um, I want to say you got involved with at least one or two other things we did.
Mike,
Um,
I've done so much with you over the years. Yeah,
yeah, it's like I said, it's hard to remember.
yeah,
And that
yeah,
was last, and then this year has just been like nuts.
yeah. I've donated twice to your video game marathons, and I think you were doing something on the side yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely know you've sponsored things. I know I've put your
Yeah.
logo on stuff.
Yep. Yeah. So one of the one of my biggest fundraisers that I've done, well, not biggest, it's just which is very near and dear to me, is two things actually. The first is like the Blairstown Museum. They're
Hmm.
nonprofits, so when I'm in town and if I'm selling anything, I give 50% of my sales to the
Oh,
museum.
that's nice. Yeah.
And then I actually did a photo fundraiser 2 or 3 weeks ago at Smithville, and
Okay.
I had a very good day and was able to give them a donation. And this past Saturday, I had a fundraiser for Special Olympics New Jersey.
Hmm.
It didn't turn out the way I thought it would have been. I mean, it was an outside event, but it was a music award show for local artists. But people are still cautious about going out. But the promoter did me a solid and did a 50-50 and
Okay.
donated. We did that.
I'll be honest with you. I love 50/50s when we go to these things. I always spend a
Yeah.
ton of money on that.
Yeah. And then this Saturday, I have another event in Smithville, their Monster Bash, and I'm doing a fundraiser to help get one fan film. Um, he's going to complete it next week, but he lost 2,000 because that was like deposits he put down, and he couldn't get them back from this horrible year. So
Yeah.
he ended up actually, he wanted the special effects to really just wow people. So he hired this graduate from the Tom Savini makeup school. She's like newly graduated, so she's eager, and so that was kind of like an unexpected income, but the end results will be well worth it because you have a Tom Savini
Yeah,
graduate.
and that's a fun connection to the original series because
Yes,
he did the effects for 1 and 4, right?
1 and 4. Yep,
Yeah.
yep, yeah. So yeah, that's what I got going on this Saturday with that, and then Saturday night we have the Halloween party, Jimmy J's Halloween Lives event,
Hmm.
which was an honor, actually humbling experience. I'm coming. I also started doing like birthdays.
Yeah.
So
'Cause
I had.
I'm sure you had plenty of people like asking you for that
Yeah, I actually did
yeah.
like I did one birthday, and then a mom saw it and she asked me if I could come visit her son because he has autism. And anytime someone tells me they have a loved one with a disability, it tugs at my heart. So I said, yeah, I can come out like this Friday, and he just had a blast. But
No, that's really good to hear. And like,
yeah,
yeah, and like you said, even though sometimes it feels like work, I'm sure I don't want to speak for you, but I know in my experience doing stuff like that, like it like reinvigorates if you're
oh,
feeling down
especially
on
like
that.
the
Yeah.
kids. The kids, I
Yeah.
love. I love putting a smile on the kids, and
Hmm.
they really think it's Jason from the movie.
It's funny that kids are into your Jason one because our friend Emily, she's mentioned on the podcast too. She stopped doing the Joker at appearances because kids would get so scared. Uh,
Well, Joker, her Joker is kind of creepy. Like the
I mean,
Heath
the Heath
Ledger.
Ledger Joker specifically
Yeah,
for those listeners who
yeah.
may not know.
Um,
Uh,
she does such an
yeah,
amazing job as Joker. She's really good.
yeah.
Um, So on my way home from seeing this young boy, I have a message on my SJJ Facebook page, and it was this loud guy, South Jersey Jason, what is going on? I'm like, he's got to be from New York, and lo and behold, he was.
Yeah.
So he's a promoter, and he was looking to throw a Halloween, like a safe Halloween party in Atlantic City, like 'cause everything's shut down, especially in New York.
Yeah.
So he pitched me this idea, and this was going back like mid September, I think. And since then we've talked every day. It's finally happening this Saturday night at the old House of Blues, and it's a 3,000 person venue, but only 150 people are going to be in there, and we're ensuring that it'll be a safe environment for everyone. And I kind of like, he just wanted me to come as like a featured cosplayer, but I ended up helping him promote, getting sponsors, which he's very appreciative of. And he's made some really cool graphics. Actually, the graphics designer is a friend of the store, Dave Bailey, I think his last name,
Oh, I know
Bailey.
Dave Bailey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So he actually is making two like cartoon characters. They're actually, I would, if I had to compare it to something, like how the Nickelodeon Ninja Turtles look kind of like a whole different style.
Well, say which version of which Ninja
Well,
Turtle
like
show?
the first one,
The CG one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's like kind of how he did my Jason. It looks really cool.
Mhm.
He did like the standard, olive green, brown color, and he did an NES version. So
Mhm.
he messaged me last night. He's like, "What do you think?" I'm like, "These are fantastic." So it's gonna be a fun night where I'm doing green screen photo ops. We're gonna
Mhm.
be playing horror movies, and there'll
That's a
be
good time. I know people like, especially this time of year. I really like getting into the spooky stuff,
yeah,
which is why I'm doing a whole month of horror themed podcasts.
that's cool.
Um, yeah, it's like last week we talked about the Treehouse of Horror series. Next week we're going to talking about horror comic recommendations,
Okay, I'll be
which is going
definitely
to
gonna
be
check that one out.
say that one's going to be good. I've got a couple of our regulars are going to be on for that, which is going to be interesting for me because I haven't really read a horror comic since like the 90s. Um, Not counting well, speaking of Freddy and Jason and stuff, they did the crossover comics, and then they also brought in Ash from the Evil Dead,
Yeah, yep.
which those were fun, but like they're not really like scary. It's
Mm-mm.
hard. It's Comics are hard to do that with. There's two things that's hard to do in comics. It's horror and comedy, because
Yeah.
so much of that is about like timing and stuff and
Hmm.
surprise. It's kind of hard to hide stuff when you have the images on the page. But there are books that excel in both of those. So if you guys want to hear about the horror part of it, come back next week and we'll do that. You know, but so it's cool that you're still able to come out and do things now. Obviously it's easier to do that now versus back in March, May.
Yeah, I missed out. Like, I had at least three or four events, booked and canceled. I mean, and
Yeah, and to be fair, up until when we kind of our hand was forced to Free Comic Book Day, we were starting to have some internal conversations. Like, hey, listen, maybe we shouldn't do this. Like,
yeah. Oh yeah.
oh,
It's all.
I've mentioned on the podcast, like, Greg had a baby in the summer, so like, his wife
Mhm,
was pregnant at the time, so he was starting to get really paranoid. She has issues, and
mhm, mhm.
we didn't know. There's so much misinformation going around about, so we didn't know
Yeah.
how to do things. A bunch of us, like a bunch of our customers, like, well, Wes, who works in the store, is an older gentleman. He has asthma and he's got pre-existing conditions. So it's like, it's one of those things. It's like, well, do we want to potentially it? We probably were leaning towards canceling it or something anyway, and then
Mhm.
the whole world shut down, and then
Yeah, it's better to be safe.
yeah, that's my big thing. I'm most concerned. I'm not so much about worried about getting myself sick, but like being a I want the store to be a safe place. So
Yeah.
I want to keep it so um like you can feel safe to come in, and it
Mhm,
not be an
mhm.
issue.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's why like with the outside events, I think that's a safe way to start doing things right
And then
now.
obviously you're wearing a mask.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, so
speaking of that, so NJ HorrorCon, they were doing the pop up like sideshow market in downtown, and I'm like, all right, well, Felicia Rose from Sleepaway Camp's going to be there. I've always wanted to meet her. It's $5, I'll go. But then like a couple of days prior, they said that if you're a cosplayer and you intend on wearing like a mask of some kind, you can't. You have to wear a face mask.
I
I'm
would
like,
say I think that would be really funny to see your Jason with like that mask over top of it.
well, I was gonna do that, but I don't have ears. So
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was pretty
well,
sure. I don't know how you hook them.
I was gonna get a Freddy one. I
Yeah.
took a hockey mask. So I messaged them and I'm like, okay, I am a little confused. I'm wearing a latex mask with a hockey mask, and you're telling me I had to wear a face mask like underneath, but like, no, no, you can't wear one at all. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, point of me dressing up. So at when they came to Atlantic City, um, the promoter of the Halloween party, he wanted me to come out to help promote the event. I'm like, well, you need to talk to them because these were their rules in Pennsylvania. I don't know if they're going to be the same in Jersey. So he talked to them, and yeah, I had to wear a face mask under the latex, which one is already hard to breathe as it is. Two,
Yeah.
I face mask, and I mean,
See, to me with the mask, that mask under there is not so much about be able to breathe. It's just like the moisture sticks to it and it's going to get hot,
yeah,
or it's going to get real wet.
yeah. So I, if once I have the mask on, I do not take it off until I am done because it's so hard to get on.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's easy to get off because it's really wet once
Yeah, you just
when it's
slip right
wet.
off.
Yeah, but getting it on, that's like the hardest part of the costume to get on. But I don't mind the fact that they're so form fitting. So when I'm, channeling my inner Kane Hodder, I have a good full range. Unlike my part four mask, it's bigger and I'm like this.
Yeah, it's a bit more like the Michael Keaton mask. You have to like move your whole body to move it,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. So
Although that makes some like dramatic swoops, so there's something to be said for that.
yeah, but then I feel like Frankenstein,
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I had a great time at the NJ Pop Up Con in Atlantic City. They had a decent amount of vendors, and it wasn't busy at all. I thought it would be a little busier because one, it was a nice day. Two, it's something for the people to do, but it wasn't that busy. But you know what? That was fine by me. I mean, there was more than 6 feet social distancing, but and they had a nice little lineup of celebrities. They had at least I think 4 or 5 different actors from the Nightmare on Elm Street series,
Hmm.
but and and one woman from Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part Three, and I kind of wiggled my way in to get a free picture, so I
Yeah.
didn't pay the $40. But that was a good day. But yeah, I'll be happy to one day when we're able to have like conventions again and everything.
I'm sure that'll be soon. Well, I don't want to jinx anything, so I'll just knock on wood. Having said that,
Yeah, I mean we'll be in a better place eventually one
well,
day.
let's say be careful with that. Saying that with a pandemic.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Yeah.
I just hope we don't go. I'm sure with flu season some things might change. I just hope
I,
we have the shortage of toilet paper again.
be honest with you, I was really worried when school started opening back up. I was like, ooh, is this going to potentially make a new wave?
Yeah,
But I think since most places aren't like, at least here, aren't like open full time, it hasn't been too bad.
yeah.
A lot of our customers are teachers, so I've been hearing all kinds of different stories because every school district is different, and
Hmm.
none of them work in the same school district. So,
Yeah.
anyway, I think we're pushing the 2 hour mark here. So is there anything Friday 13th related that we haven't gotten into that you wanted to hit?
Yeah, actually, we can end it with the two
Sure.
fan films that I'm involved with.
Sure.
So back in May of 2019, when I went and visited the Blairstown Museum for the first time, I had this someone just message me on my regular page, just like saying, "Hey, I saw that you're in Blairstown," and he pitched me an idea of a script he was writing called His Name Was Jason, not to be confused with the documentary that came out about 15 years ago. This story takes place in between parts one and two. It's actually set like 2 years before part two. So it's a different look of Jason clothing wise, but he has the sack. It's a horror movie, but the way he can describe it to when he's pitching the movie is think of like a Stand By Me and The Deer Hunter. Okay. Basically, the story is a group of friends that live in town are going hunting after a prize buck, and people are warning them about going into the woods because of what happened, and they're like, that's ghost stories, and then eventually things take a turn for the worse. So one of the hardest things about making a fan film is getting that funding. That's a whole nother beast that you have to tackle. Some people make a lot of funding and some are struggling. So Dave Brown has been struggling. Dave's originally from Egg Harbor City, so we had that Jersey connection, and that's like, you reach out to someone, hey, where are you from? Well, originally Egg Harbor City. Really? I'm 2 towns over from you. But he lives in Manhattan now. So he's had a very hard time raising the money compared to some other films, which meet their goal within 3 days. When Dave only needs like 15,000, they're getting like 50,000. Plus, a lot of people don't like the Sackhead version, but Dave's a huge fan of the franchise, such as me, and he went to the drive-in and saw part two, so that's like his favorite. So, you know, uh, I would say about March or April, that's when he asked me if I wanted this to help out more with the film from like a social media aspect, like, just moderate everything, keep plugging, because I've been a fan since day one. I contributed to his fundraisers and whatnot, and Dave's a great storyteller. So because of like just my hard work with him, we went out and filmed a little teaser scene to give like the backers something because of like everything that was shut down, and it was actually a pretty cool thing. It was like actually my first time being on a movie set, even though we shot it with an iPhone, and it was a simple scene. So he invited me and Irene to be a part of filming for a day because we were actually going to Blairstown that weekend just to hang out. So that was like my first time being on a movie set, because again, he wants to keep it authentic to the original. So the majority of the movie's filmed in Blairstown. So we're at the Blairstown Diner, which was showed in the original. And he's like, hey, you're going to be extras in a diner scene. Okay, I'm thinking in my mind, it shouldn't be that long, right?
Oh
So
no, 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 no. I,
so
I've shot a, I've shot a couple of student films. Oh my God.
yeah, we got there at 7:30 in the morning, and I don't think we didn't leave till about 4 p.m. And it was actually really cool to see how a movie's made behind the camera.
Mhm.
The different angles and this and that. So it was a really fun experience, and actually, we have more than just being extras in the diner. There's like a verbal argument, and so basically what Jason West, the cameraman, did was, all right, so when you hear them yelling, when I give you a hand signal, you're gonna like stop what you're doing and look up. So it's like almost like I'm in the booth and I'm like, what's going on over there. And then Irene had to do her little scene. So looking forward to seeing that on the small screen. So Dave's actually filming the final scene, which is the campground scene and the finale, next Wednesday through Halloween. So, and then it's going into post production, and they'll have it. We're hoping to have it released like in the spring, and we're going to do a premiere at Hunter's Lodge, which is outside of Blairstown. Fantastic restaurant, nice outside area. And little fact: when they were making the original movie, some of the cast and crew stayed at the rooms there. That's where the Hunter's Lodge comes in. There's like rooms behind it. So I actually stayed there back like in December, and I'm like, I wonder if I'm sleeping where Sean Cunningham slept.
Mhm.
So so back, I guess around the same time, March or April, he pitched another idea to me and said, what do you think of this? So his idea was taking the story of Jason drowning, Mrs. Voorhees killing the counselors, and then ending it there and kind of making it in its own universe. Almost like think of
Like a split timeline thing.
yeah, yeah. So in this story, he's not called Jason, he's called the Huntsman. He's like the boogeyman of the woods.
Hmm.
So the title of the film is Seasons of the Huntsman. They're going to be four like 20 to 25-minute shorts, and each episode will be during a season of the year, and it's going to span 40 years. So
Okay.
we go
They're
far
like
back.
10 years apart from each other.
Pretty much, yeah. We're going to start in 75, which is like a spring setting. We are just about done doing summer 84. We have to do one reshoot in Blairstown, and then we're hoping to do that the Sunday, the 15th of November, and then it'll go into post production, and we'll get it out soon after. So, and then we have winter, which will be like in the 90s, and then I think the fall is going to be like the early 2000s, and each episode will have a song with it. So in '84, and this is way before this happened, but he said, "What do you think of playing Panama by Van Halen?" And I'm
Mhm.
like, "Yeah, that fits. That fit to me. That's a really iconic song." And for such a popular song, when I looked at the Billboard charts, it wasn't high on the Billboard charts. Um,
It's a good
so
radio air filler song.
yes, yeah. So we shot local. We shot behind Batstow Village, like right, like along like the two, like
Oh,
the kayaking.
so you're even more local.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So and I learned a lot from Dave as far as the number one rule when you're making like a fan film: don't put your friends in there.
Oh no, that's a filming thing. If you film with your friends, they won't be your friends at the end.
Well, yeah, that, and
Yeah.
plus that they don't have any acting ability.
Well,
So
that too. Yeah.
yeah, you'll see like in some of these Friday fan films, you can tell who has experience and who doesn't. So with like his name was Jason, he has professional, like any actor to me is a professional if you do plays and stuff. So there's a website he uses called backstage.com. So basically it's a website where you can find talent, and then you can filter out like non-union, union, SAG, all that good stuff. So we always look for like the non-union, non-SAG individuals, and maybe someone that doesn't have a lot of experience, because the way you can get around not maybe paying them as much is this can help you practice your craft, so he would look at the prospective candidates, send me their demo reel, and then we would talk about it. So we have two fantastic actors. Colin McHugh plays Michael, and Caroline Hertz plays his girlfriend Michelle. Colin has, a nice little resume. What I think is really cool is he was in the AMC series Making of the Mafia. He played
Mm.
like the cop that arrested I forget which character, which mobster he arrested. And then Carolyn's got a big. She's more into stage plays in New York, but she's actually making a really cool movie out in Pennsylvania that is about witches, and she plays like the big bad witch. So when she told me the story, it was really cool. So, and their chemistry just worked so well together. So we shot a total of 2 days. The first day was just all the scenes involving the huntsman, who Dave Brown is playing Jason, because Dave's 6'5", and I'm 5'6", so, or five
Yeah.
seven or 5'8". I'm somewhere like that. Anyway,
You're in the mid fives
I'm
somewhere.
in the fives, yeah.
Yeah.
So since he's in front of the camera, I gotta give him the direction, and I'm doing like his costume, making sure everything is looking good. And we also have a cameraman too,
Yeah.
Jim Galiza. He's really good, and he taught me a lot from his perspective as well, as far as what's on the movie slate, all that good stuff, what this terminology means. So I directed Dave in all the Jason scenes, and then we shot 2 weeks ago again at Batstow with Carolyn and Colin, and they're both like, we both shot like 6 to 8 hours each day. So because you got to there's different angles you got to get, and then
Yeah,
you're
you
doing.
got to get the coverage, and then you usually want to get like a couple of takes.
Yep. Yeah,
That
we
way, because it's a lot of it, you need to be able to have pieces when you get to the editing rooms to
exactly,
do
yeah,
together.
and then
Yeah.
like we did like pickup scenes and just various shots. And so what I've been doing is um I have Adobe Premiere, but when I first looked at it, I was like,
It's super
holy,
overwhelming. Yeah.
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 So
I use Premiere as well.
I'm using Video Lab right now, but the cool thing about Jim is, like last night he called me and taught me how to color scale the clips in Adobe Premiere, you know.
Mhm.
So I'm going to do all that and then probably just transfer it into my other editor. So we're releasing another trailer um, on Halloween. It's going to be like introducing the characters. So the first trailer we released probably about a month ago was just like the Huntsman in the Woods to like a Johnny Cash song, and it fit really well. And then we're releasing trailer on Halloween, teaser trailer, and then we'll have the premiere on YouTube um, probably within the end of November, maybe beginning of December. So this is all self-funded.
Mhm.
Everything's come out of our pocket, more so Dave than me. But I do, if you go on Facebook, we have a Facebook group called Seasons of the Huntsman. We're actually doing a poster run of 50 posters. So once we get all 50 spots filled, that's we'll put in the order. We'll collect all the money at the at that time, and then the proceeds are going to go to pay Dave back. So it's $20 with shipping. It's 11 by 17 poster.
Mhm.
At the event I'm doing in Smithville, if you come to the event, it's $15.
Okay.
So there's two ways to do it. So on Facebook, it's Seasons of the Huntsman. What hurt us was Dave started the Facebook group as private because he didn't want to announce it just yet. But right when he created that Facebook group, Facebook changed their policy of, well, if you have a public page, you can make it private, and then, or if you, but you can't go back to public.
Yeah,
But
you
if you,
can't switch it back. That's what we
right,
learned too.
but
Yeah.
if you start a private page, you used to make it public, but now you can't. So
Yeah.
that kind of hurt us, and he didn't want to create a whole new one and confuse people. So like I shared on my South Jersey Jason page on Facebook and Instagram. We also have an Instagram page for Seasons of the Huntsman. So if the release of the film on YouTube gets a good feedback from the fans, we do want to move forward, but we're going to have to do a crowdfunding because we would want to shoot the spring next, but that's going to be all nighttime shooting, so we're going to need more equipment. So we're thinking we're
Well, so
going to,
you probably want to wait until it's spring and there's leaves on the trees again.
well, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
As
yeah.
well.
So yeah, so all in all, I think to finish the rest of the three seasons, we'll need about $10,000, and that's kind of like on a high end. It'll give us some wiggle room.
Mhm.
But then once, if everything's to work out great and we can do that, and if the fans really want it, we'll put it all like on a DVD.
Yeah, and then
And
that's something you can sell and like,
yep,
obviously you'll put it. If you when you're talking about putting them on YouTube, obviously that's free to watch then. But
yep,
you can if you can get a Google AdSense account when you have 1,000 subscribers and there's 4,000 hours watched in the last 12 months of your videos,
mm-hmm.
start putting like commercials and stuff on it.
Oh yeah,
So then
yeah.
you'll get money when as people watch it.
Oh, nice, nice.
But you need to.
Yeah,
I don't know what they're. I don't know what they're if they meet those two criteria yet.
yeah, and I don't think they. I mean, yeah, Dave's not really active really on YouTube. He's got a couple of trailers out, but he's not like Never Hike Alone status where the first night they released it on YouTube, it had 28,000 views. So for a 30-minute movie,
I mean, I'd kill for 28,000 views right now, but uh,
so that's the foray into the fan films, which I think it's really cool because again, a year ago, I'm like looking outside the window, and now I'm in the house doing all this cool
yeah,
stuff.
I was gonna say I kind of want to check out the Never. Oh my god, this is probably why I
Never
haven't seen it yet
Never Hike
because I
Alone.
Never Hike
I'll
Alone.
send you. I'll send you the links to the
Yeah, I was about to
long
say
form film.
I'll try to put the links in the description of this video of this podcast episode
Mhm.
for as much of the stuff you talked about.
Yeah,
It'll probably be like this big list, so I might just link to southjerseyjason.com, which is
yeah.
because you have
Actually,
most of this stuff on there too, right?
yeah. Actually, SouthJersey.com. I do have a section where I have fan film links. I have to
Mhm.
update it though with some newer stuff. The one thing I do update every Friday is my cosplay section where I do an article on a horror cosplayer, which is kind of dwindling down now. I mean, I've been doing it since January, and I have like 3 more weeks of content, and then I won't have any more cosplayers to announce. But maybe every couple of weeks I'll get a new guy. I do have to like updated with newer pictures. But I've been focusing a lot on the cosplayers. That was my way of giving back because so many
Yeah.
people have helped me.
I do
So
something similar on our website as well. You were actually part of it, the
mhm,
cosplay confession series. I think I've hit up most of our regulars at this point. Like I have gotten, you are able to just submit to it,
mhm,
and then when I'm ready to start doing the like, I'll email you back and we'll discuss like photos and whatnot.
yeah.
But so unless some more people like come on that, I've kind of exhausted all the people like I personally feel comfortable reaching out
Mhm,
to.
mhm, mhm.
But now that that's something that can be whenever.
Yeah, I do want to get back to writing articles. Like I was doing like I did some interviews and then I did like, what got me into the franchise, my experience at the Jason Fest, and then I started doing the ranking of the kills in each movie and I got up to part 2 and then I just stopped because the cosplay thing like really took off.
Mhm.
So I think eventually I'm gonna get back into that, but I do want to add more updated photos and maybe I have like a calendar of events. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna work on that like in the off season, just kind of sprucing it up a little bit. Like
yeah, that's no problem.
it's my website's very basic because I'm still learning how to do things with it.
I can
So
I can give you some pointers. We'll talk about that off the air if you want.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
But uh,
So
but yeah, I think this is a good place to end it. It's another 2 hour monster
yeah,
size, no pun intended, episode here. Brian, thank you so much for joining me and talking Friday.
yeah. Thanks for
Um,
having me.
no, of course. I knew I knew when I started doing this, I was eventually gonna have you. I just since I do these episodes on Friday, I was kind of hoping there was gonna be a Friday the 13th, but there's not gonna be one for a little while. And
Yeah, November.
well,
That's
there wasn't one when I was for a while when I was doing this, and then
yeah,
when October came around, I was planning out the what episodes I want to do through the year because I want to take a couple of weeks off for the holidays,
yeah, yeah.
just for my own sanity and like just for
Hmm.
scheduling people and whatnot. But I was like, oh, let me do a bunch of horror themed stuff in October. And I was like, I kind of had slotted for just like a movie discussion. They didn't know what that meant, and I was like, oh, you know what? Friday 13th's been on my whiteboard with South Jersey Jason. So I was like, all right, we'll slot that right in there. So that worked out, and you know, uh, but at 1 week from when you're hearing this, it's going to be Halloween. So um, it's like a good one to kind of get to be our penultimate because it's probably the most one of the more horrific things we talked about. Not more more straight up scary. Like two of the ones
Right.
we did were about costuming, and one
Hmm.
was about The Simpsons. So,
Yeah. And then also, if I can just give one more shout
oh
out,
sure, sure,
um, I wanted to shout out. Uh, they're on Facebook and Instagram, but unfortunately, their names are different because Facebook won't allow them to change their name. So on Facebook, it's Gallo Goes to Hell, and then on Instagram, it's 13 Gallows Lane. He was one of the cosplayers that inspired me as far as photo shoots. His costumes, he's got four individuals and one female who are Jasons, and then he has a plethora of really great models. And his are more like not safe for work photos. He's like a Patreon and everything, but I just like the artistic style to it, like the angles and the effects and whatnot. And so he was like another inspiration that I wanted to be a cosplayer, and we've been friends for over a year. He's given me a lot of great advice, and I'm actually seeing them this Friday. They're coming down to visit him and the other cosplayers, and it'll be my first time seeing Joe in over a year. So
mm-hmm.
shout out to him, and then also Camp Blood Radio on Facebook, or not Facebook. Well, you can find him on Facebook, but really good Friday 13th podcast. Nathan Barker, he had me on the show for the first time back in September, and since then we formed a really great friendship. I've been back on his show twice as like a co-host, and we talk almost like every day on Messenger. So great guy, and he's another person that's both Joe and Nathan has shared my content, and I share their content. So yeah, go check them out. Camp Blood Radio and then 13 Gallows Lane.
Okay. Well, thanks for like I said, lots of shout outs throughout this episode. I hope people were listening with a pen and paper. But like I said, you've got all these links on your website, and that's
Hmm.
easy to remember, southjerseyjason.com. And I'll try to put the If I don't put the link in the description, it's just because I uploaded it late at night and I forgot.
No problem.
But that's something I can easily go back and edit. So
Yeah, I'll send you I'll message you like just like the Camp Lab Radio and all that.
Yeah. Send me whatever links you need me to
Yep.
put in.
No problem.
But yeah, well, that'll do us for this episode. Join us next week. We're talking, as I mentioned earlier, scary comic book recommendations next week. So I'm looking forward to that. So until next time, be safe out there.